G'day world, welcome to my stream. I know yesterday I said I wasn't going to do politics and news, and I guess that wasn't quite what I meant. I wanted to change how it was done. I don't want to present it. I don't want to be the presenter of the news. I'm not a journalist. Well, maybe I am. Maybe I can be one day. But anyway, this is more what I would have liked to do. So we're going to do a test run. We're going to do a test run today where I'm watching what I want to watch, and y'all can join me on that journey while I play my games, which is what I do, and that's what I want, like, during the day. And that's what my original kind of plan was, that I wanted to kind of do what I do during the day, and have people join me with that. But I wasn't able to initially, because I didn't really know, you know, I'm only learning the setup and everything. I didn't really know how to set it up with both a video and audio, and a game, things like that. Now I'm a bit more adept at OBS. I guess I'm more capable of setting that up. It's a little bit of a fiddle around. I don't know how well it's going to work. That's what I mean. This is a test run to see whether this will work. And so we're going to watch content that I would normally watch, content that before I was sort of like, I don't want to watch it. I want you guys to go and watch it. because I was in Just Chatting and I was presenting news stories, like specific, whereas this is sort of the videos that I would normally watch. And I wasn't sharing it because it was like, I wasn't watching them during my streams because it was kind of like, I'd rather you go watch it there. But in this format, I feel a little bit more comfortable with that, in that I'm doing gameplay. If people want to come and watch me play games, then cool. Maybe they'll learn something along the way. Maybe they'll get an interest in news and politics because I've got news and politics running on a little screen next to it, you know. And maybe I'll jump in with a comment here and there on what we're watching, but for the most part, it's just let's enjoy what the videos that I put up, you know, what they present to us and what we can learn from those. So, and then I'm just going to play games, and hopefully that will like introduce maybe a new audience to news and politics. People might discover that they like something that they before they didn't like it, or whatever, or that they're passionate about. I always sort of say about news and politics, it's not necessarily something I like. It's just that it's kind of it's an ethical thing, you know. It's where you base your ethics and your morals and everything, and how we live with each other, yeah? So it's important. So it's not about liking it. It's about the fact that it has an effect on us. So, maybe this way, people get introduced to new content and cool Australian content. I don't know, I'm going to play American content too, but I want to play my favorite Australian content creators as well. And I don't think that there's anyone out there really reacting to Australian content. Yeah, you might get the occasional one, I don't know, but someone that will do it regularly, I don't think there's anyone. I don't think there's anyone that does that. So that's what we're going to sort of do, you know. Play games and watch some. These aren't really news, these two. Then I have got an American one, which is a kind of news overview show. You know, maybe I could watch like Phil DeFranco's shows or things like that. Plus I'm looking at maybe, you know, little docos. Maybe we could watch Anton Petrov together and stuff like that. But I like Internet Today, and these are Australian these two programs that I'm going to play now. I've got Planet America, which is an Australian ABC program, analysis on obviously what's going on in America, and then I'm going to play another one, which is If You're Listening, which is also an Australian ABC program, which is it kind of focuses on the current things that are happening, but gives you a kind of historical context of it. Anyway, so that's what we're going to do. We're going to give this setup a try and hopefully it work. And in the background, I'm just going to play my gameplay and just play my games. I guess that's not really in the background. It's more quite prominent on the screen, but that's going to be the main part. But then you can listen along. These are like podcasts anyway. All right. So I guess I should get the video. We get the video started. So this might be a little bit rusty at first because, well, not just rusty, but like I have not done this setup before. So, you know, this is the test. Let's see how it goes. All right. So this one's called Planet America. I've put the name up the top, as you can see, current video. I can't fit the game in. I'm sure everyone knows I'm playing Fortnite. I'm going to play some Save the World matches. I got some V-Buck missions to do. And we're going to watch Planet America at the same time. So I'm going to set that off because I think it'll start straight away as soon as I make it big.
Hello there, welcome to Planet America's Weekend Edition.
There we go.
Aaron.
And I'm Shaz Chadela.
This week, fears that a crackdown on dissent is leading to a new era of McCarthyism.
And an iconic polling site is shutting down, just as Trump's approval ratings slump. But first...
And first this week to the story of Mahmoud Khalil. He's a 30-year-old graduate of New York's Columbia University. Born in Syria into an exiled Palestinian family, Khalil came to the United States to study in 2022. Last year, as the war in Gaza raged on, he emerged as a spokesperson for the pro-Palestinian demonstrators on the Columbia campus. And that involvement brought him a national profile.
This is a movement, an anti-war movement.
Khalil's involvement in those protests in which
picking it
some
up in my
students
mic,
occupied
which
campus
wasn't happening
buildings
during
and
the
allegedly
tests.
intimidated some Jewish students also saw Khalil suspended from Columbia.
I was not part of this encampment. I did not sleep in the encampment. This shows the randomness and the arbitrary measures that the university is taking against their students.
In fact, Khalil said that he stayed away from the encampments because he was concerned that his student visa would be revoked. His enrolment was quickly reinstated, though. He has since graduated with a master's degree from the School of International and Public Affairs. Khalil also married an American woman. Their first child is due within a couple of weeks. And Khalil has been granted permanent residency and a green card to be able to live and work in the United States. But an online intimidation campaign has started to gain momentum. Some Jewish students said that he spent over a year abusing the privileges this country and Colombia gave him. And then, a week ago, agents from ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, came knocking.
Now, the 30-year-old was detained, we know, by ICE agents on Saturday at his Columbia University-owned residence on campus. ICE agents said that his student visa was revoked under Trump's executive order, but when he showed them that he's actually not here on a student visa, rather he is a legal permanent resident with a green card, they said that was also revoked.
And ominously, President Trump warned this week, this is just the beginning.
I think we ought to get them all out of the country. They're troublemakers, they're agitators. They don't love our country. We ought to get him the hell out. I think that guy, we ought to get him. I heard his statements too. They were plenty bad. And I think we ought to get him the hell out of the country. I watched him. I watched tapes. Specifically, I watched tapes. And you can have him, okay? You can have him. And you can have the rest of them.
The White House hasn't shared those alleged tapes. And funny to see the free speech absolutist Elon Musk just nodding along there, apparently exercising his right to remain silent. Khalil, meanwhile, has not been charged with any crime. No evidence to support the claim that he's involved with terrorist groups or supports them has been produced. Friends of Khalil maintain that he is pro-Palestinian, sure, but not pro-Hamas. And he was simply exercising his right to both free speech and the right to protest.
It's very clear that these people who are screaming about anti-Semitism and accusations of terror against a very broad and diverse protest movement are not interested in keeping any Jew safe or anyone safe. They're interested in crushing dissent, and in this case, they're interested in punishing higher education.
We're going to be hearing a lot about the First Amendment to the US Constitution in the next few minutes. So here's what it says. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. More importantly, it also says they will not abridge the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of people to peaceably assemble. And as well, they have the right to petition the government for a redress of any grievances of those matters. Now, Mahmoud Khalil remains in ICE detention as of today. This week, a judge did step in to delay his deportation back to Syria. Protests, though, have erupted across college campuses, including Columbia. A group of Jewish students even stormed Trump Tower in New York, demanding Khalil be released. Close to 100 of them were arrested. Meanwhile, Democrats, including the likes of Senator Chris Murphy, are saying this is an issue that should be of great concern to all Americans.
Look at my hair.
Because once it becomes norm for the regime to disappear people simply for protest against the regime's policies, once a citizen or a resident of America can be locked away with no charges against them simply because they protested, there is no going back for America. Even if you're a hardened Trump supporter, this practice should cross the line for you.
It's interesting, John, you referred to the argument that Khalil hasn't been charged with any crime. That's been made a few times. Notorious immigration restrictionist Ann Coulter made the same argument, saying that there's almost no one I don't want to deport, but unless they've committed a crime, isn't this a violation of the First Amendment? Now, Marco Rubio says we're looking at this all wrong. He says it's not about committing crimes. Khalil isn't going to jail, he's being deported. Rubio says this is about whether the government has the right to revoke a visa.
You come to the United States as a visitor, which is what a visa is, which is how this individual entered this country, as on a visitor's visa.
Not just visas, but
You are here as a visitor. We can deny you that visa. We can deny you that if you tell us when you apply, hi, I'm trying to get into the United States on a student visa. I am a big supporter of Hamas, a murderous, barbaric group that kidnaps children, that rapes teenage girls, that takes hostages, that allows them to die in captivity, that returns more bodies than live hostages. If you tell us that you are in favor of a group like this, and if you tell us when you apply for your visa, and by the way, I intend to come to your country as a student and rile up all kinds of anti-Jewish student, anti-Semitic activities, I intend to shut down your universities. If you told us all these things when you applied for a visa, we would deny your visa. I hope we would. If you actually end up doing that, once you're in this country on such a visa, we will revoke it.
Now let's leave aside whether that's an accurate description of Khalil that Rubio just gave you there, because I don't think it is. But do they have the right to revoke a green card full stop? Well, there is a statute that suggests that yes, they clearly do. Section 1227 states that if the Secretary of State has reasonable ground to believe the migrant's presence has potentially serious adverse foreign policy consequences for America, then yes, they can deport them. Rubio presumably has made that judgment. Another statute specifically bars any alien who endorses terrorist activity or persuades others to endorse terrorist activity or to support a terrorist organisation. Now, Hamas has been officially designated a terrorist organisation by the US government, so that there would be grounds for deportation as well. Now, there is an exception in the statute, though, for free speech concerns. It prohibits deportation if the migrants' beliefs, statements or associations would normally be lawful in America, which in this case, they absolutely would because of the First Amendment. But that exception doesn't apply if the Secretary of State personally determines that the alien's presence would compromise a compelling US foreign policy interest, which once again, I imagine Rubio would do. So, the statutory law is not necessarily on Khalil's side at all here, but is the Constitution? Because does that law there that I just read out violate the First Amendment? There is a precedent on the books from 1952. It says legal aliens could be deported for membership in the Communist Party. That would not violate the First Amendment. So there is kind of an analogy there to supporting Hamas. So it would suggest that Khalil's deportation would not be unconstitutional if they can prove he supports Hamas. But there are all kinds of arguments that could be made to the Supreme Court that this is unconstitutional. Like, for instance, no green card holder could possibly know what conduct might or might not bother Marco Rubio at any particular moment. So that statute is way too vague and therefore should not be constitutional. And look, that's just one argument. There's many other arguments that could be made and are being made right now. This is fresh legal ground. There's nothing like this on the books. So we have no idea where this is going. Although, you know who does think this move is illegal? Trump's first administration does. Trump's Justice Department wrote that lawful permanent residents, which is Khalil, very likely could not be excluded or removed for expressing mere philosophical support for terrorism. That's interesting, isn't it? The White House is being very open as well about the fact that if they do win this case, they're going to push this precedent to the limit. They've already provided Colombia with a list of students who they demand to be handed over for deportation.
Columbia University has been given the names of other individuals who have engaged in pro-Hamas activity, and they are refusing to help DHS identify those individuals on campus. And as the president said very strongly in his statement yesterday, he is not going to tolerate that, and we expect all America's colleges and universities to comply with this administration's policy.
Whoa, so the stakes are very high on this one, John.
Yeah, and Mahmoud Khalil clearly knew that the stakes were high for him last year because he was concerned about losing his student visa. He was not, as Marco Rubio alleged, riling up the crowds. He was not getting involved with some of the illegal trespasses that were happening on campus grounds. He was very deliberate in doing that. He's since got a green card, married to an American citizen, but this still means that there are now in the United States, talking about the stakes being high, between 1 to 2 million student visa holders. Basically, if they take part in any protest that relates to international affairs or criticising America even, they could face deportation. Then there's another 12, maybe 13 million green card holders based on the Khalil precedent that could have ICE come knocking on their door and say, well, you said nothing in your application about being a rabble-rouser and stirring up internal dissent. And this is where people are saying, well, this is like McCarthyism in the early 1950s, where you don't even have to provide evidence to say that this person has terrorist sympathies or that they have incited any violence or hold these views at all. You can simply make the allegation that is enough to lock them up. Sure, they're not being sent to jail for life, unless they're sent to Gitmo perhaps, and that is enough to deprive them of their liberty. They even tried to arrest Khalil's wife before she proved she in fact is an American citizen, not just a green card holder or a visa holder. So this is why this goes beyond the question of just free speech amongst international students on campuses, but free speech, as Chris Murphy suggested, for all Americans who disagree with Donald Trump.
I think you make an excellent point about the evidence, by the way, because I just went through all the legals, assuming they can prove their case.
Right.
But I haven't seen any evidence that Khalil himself is a massive Hamas supporter. He's a member of a group that definitely supports Hamas.
Yep.
There's no doubt about that group. But I haven't seen any video of Khalil himself saying anything. So I'm presuming they have that evidence, but I'd like to see that evidence.
Yeah, and it's very, very problematic to talk about people supporting Hamas because just as you can support the Israeli government or the Israeli Defence Force, you don't necessarily endorse everything that they do. Similarly, Hamas has committed atrocities, there is no doubt. Hamas has also provided hospitals and healthcare and education and a social safety net in a part of the world which otherwise would not have had it. When some people support some of Hamas, I think we can afford to allow that there is a distinction there while also saying Hamas does some very bad things.
Yeah, I was going to say the group itself supports the bad things. Right. I'll tell you that. I've seen footage of it. But once again, let's see if Khalil does.
Yeah.
The other point you made, which I think is well worth picking up on, is what does terrorism mean? Because, Hamas now is an official terrorist organisation. But, I've seen Elon Musk describe people who support Ukraine as terrorists.
Yeah.
Like he said Mark Kelly.
What does terrorism mean?
Was a traitor for supporting Ukraine.
I've seen Elon Musk give a few rather anti-Semitic looking gestures in recent times.
Well, there's that. I saw Trump this week say that people who vandalise
can be so ambiguous.
Are terrorists.
Are terrorists.
Yeah.
So that can be a real slippery slope. One other thing with the law, I was rattling through a bunch of legislation really quickly. There's one key word that keeps coming up. It's the word reasonable. That is going to be the court case. The court case is Marco Rubio's judgment reasonable?
Words have no meaning anymore. Even reasonable doesn't really mean anything, does it?
There's one more point before we move on to the interview, and that is, we heard a few people talk about
we want these people to be
reasonable. Key aspect of this, which we just brushed past, is that he is currently in Louisiana. He was arrested in New York, moved to New Jersey, and then to Louisiana. That's important because in Louisiana he's in the Fifth Circuit, which is a very conservative part of the country. That could mean by the time he gets to the Supreme Court, there's a very different record from the appeals court than there would be if he's moved back to New York. So that right now they're debating where he's going to be held trial. That's a critical question to this particular case.
Yeah, it's a fascinating one, as it will be if there is evidence of overt anti-Semitism from Khalil, because that could see a lot of the philosophical support that he's receiving at the moment, certainly in progressive circles in the United States, disappear quite quickly. So does the Trump administration have a card up their sleeve here to just lure Democrats and progressives into supporting this man and then say, here's your evidence, he's a bad dude?
sorry, I should mention one other thing. Colombia has also been fined, where they've lost $400 million in grants for not doing enough to fight anti-Semitism, according to the Trump administration. That's another whole legal can of worms, which we're not even getting into.
Yeah.
This is very complicated.
Yeah, it sure is. But joining us now is Catherine Ross. She's Professor of Law at George Washington University. She specialises in constitutional law with a particular focus on that First Amendment to the Constitution. Professor, welcome to Planet America. This has been likened by some to that early 1950s era of McCarthyism, that it is now enough to allege that somebody is anti-Semitic or indeed un-American, and therefore you can be arrested and maybe deported. Do you share that level of concern right now?
I don't know if it is the single biggest constitutional crisis that we are facing at this very moment, because there are so many going on and being anticipated. It is certainly appalling, shocking to the conscience, and almost inconceivable that someone living in America with a green card and married to an American citizen, expecting their child, who will be an American citizen, could be essentially disappeared, as we used to use it when we were talking about South American dictatorships. But he was snatched from his home, told that he had no rights, not allowed to call a lawyer, told that his green card was being revoked, which is not possible for the arresting immigration officers to do, and spirited off first to New Jersey, out of state, and then to an undisclosed location where ICE keeps people. And finally, his location was disclosed. He was taken to a jurisdiction that is much more likely to be deferential to the government. He was living in New York. He was taken from New York. So presumably, New York is the place that should hear, for example, a habeas corpus petition. But the government is trying very hard to get him moved to Louisiana, which is not only a deeply conservative state with a conservative trial court system, but is overseen by a very conservative appellate court. And as of last night, and I don't know what happened today, I haven't been able to find out, but as of last night, he had not been able to meet with his attorney, which is, attorneys should have immediate access in the United States.
Professor, the fact that he has a green card and he doesn't just have a student visa, how much difference does that make to the actual legal issues here? Has the government found themselves an unnecessarily difficult target as their test case?
Fabulous question. If he were here on a student visa and he violated the university's rules and they decided to expel him, he clearly did violate university rules, but he was not penalized and he's graduated. But if the hypothetical were he's still a student, they expel him, he no longer has a student visa, he can be immediately deported. And in fact, that is one of the alleged reasons why many universities last academic year declined to impose heavy penalties on particularly pro-Hamas demonstrators, because they didn't want them to lose their residency in the U.S. Some of them would have been going back to repressive regimes, etc. So the government here has admitted that Khalid didn't commit any crimes for which he could be prosecuted. He did occupy university buildings and refused to leave, and was not just a negotiator, but apparently was a leader of the occupation demonstrations, as recently as last week, when they occupied the library at Barnard College, an affiliate of Columbia.
So they come up with as many excuses as they can around free speech.
Situation. Students are at much greater risk.
Professor, as you said, that he's currently in Louisiana. His lawyers are trying to get him moved back to New York. How much difference does that make to the eventual case, given presumably all roads lead to the Supreme Court? So does it not matter where he starts, or does it actually matter where he starts?
you are right that ultimately this case is likely to reach the Supreme Court. They, of course, don't have to take any particular case. They take very few cases every year. But we'll assume this is a significant case that's going to make law, and they're likely to hear it. The record that's developed by the lower courts might be very different if the case is heard in Louisiana as opposed to the Southern District of New York. And that could make a big difference.
My goodness.
There is, of course, Professor, another option.
That one.
Dozens of detainees in Louisiana have found themselves sent to Guantanamo Bay in Cuba. We also understand that a number of them have then been repatriated back to Louisiana for reasons that are not quite clear.
The government is changing its mind about tariffs, Guantanamo. They're just like, you have to check what time of day it is to know what the policy is.
Could we see a situation where Khalil ends up in that legal limbo where people have spent 20 years plus without charge in detention at a US Navy base in Cuba?
I wish I could say no, but so many unimaginable things are happening today in the United States with our government and our justice system. Yes, that is possible, and Guantanamo is US territory.
Professor, the Trump administration has openly said that this is not a one-off. They have every intention of ignoring lots of people's free speech rights and deporting a whole heap of them. Does that kind of announcement make a difference to the courts?
In theory, judges should not pay attention to things that are going on outside the courtroom. But judges are human beings, and they read the news. They will also understand that this is not a one-off. We're being told if the government wins here, it will conclude that the way it acted in this case is the way it can act in any case. And we also know that as part of the immigration sweeps, they are picking up US citizens. There was a case reported recently where a child who was a US citizen was forced to leave with, I believe it was a girl, with her parents, even though there were relatives willing to keep her in the United States, and the parents said they wanted her to stay in the United States. So we're deporting citizens. We're deporting people who have not committed any crimes. And this is not legal. But by the time the court system plays out in these cases, people's lives will have been transformed. Justice is very slow, and particularly with appeals.
Well, Professor Ross,
that's exactly what they're intending with everything. It's all about, like, because the court is so slow, which they learned over the 4 years. You know, that's why Trump was even able to run, because the court system's so slow. And, like, by dismantling the government the way they are and all the government departments and everything, by the time all this stuff makes it through the court, it'll be too late, because it'll already be all destroyed.
Really appreciate your expertise. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Lives will be already destroyed. People will have already lost their job.
In the first few weeks of Donald Trump's second term, many American voters seem to welcome him back. He consistently passed 50% approval in polls, something he never managed in his first four-year term. And Trump's flurry of executive actions and sweeping changes seem to create a sense of momentum and change that voters liked. But 7 weeks in, and there are some worrying signs for Trump that some voters, at least, are already growing weary with his flood the zone tactics, which may dominate the news cycle, but are spooking the markets and business confidence with all these threatened tariffs and changes. Trump himself this week entertained the idea that America could indeed be sliding into a recession.
I hate to predict things like that. There is a period of transition.
Apparently, they had the best economy, the strongest economy ever that they'd ever had. Now, I'm no Biden fan, but apparently this is what they're saying. It was the strongest economy, and he's destroyed it in the space of 7 weeks.
Because what we're doing is very big. We're bringing wealth back to America.
This week, a poll from CNN found there was a spike in the number of Americans who expect economic conditions will be poor next year. 51%, that's up 7 points since just before Trump took office in January.
It can be all over the world like that.
Also think that Trump's policies have worsened economic conditions. They're blaming him. Just 28% say that Trump has improved things. Trump's overall approval rating has slipped as well to 45%. Perhaps more importantly, though, is his approval for the handling of the economy.
Maybe if everything crashes, house prices will crash. Could something positive come out of all of this? I think there's going to be a lot of years of pain before there's anything positive out of it.
Specifically, it's down to 44%. And Chaz, that's a real departure from Trump's first term, where his handling of the economy typically ran higher than his overall approval. It was propping him up. So in short, Trump's strong suit, at least from his first term, is possibly starting to fail him.
Yeah, that's literally the first time since he was elected president in 2017 that Trump has been below 50% in economic approval, according to CNN. Never happened before. And it's no wonder. The economic polling right now, appalling. Last month, Gallup found only 20% of people felt the economy was good or excellent right now. That's even worse than during COVID. Reuters recently found that people thinking the economy that was on the wrong track, it rose 10% in a fortnight, from 43% to 53%. And why was that? Simple. 32% of people in that poll approved of Trump's performance on inflation. He spent the whole election riding on anger about high prices. Now the shoe's on the other foot. Check out the University of Michigan's inflationary expectations polling. This is as of last month. This is telling you what people expect inflation to be in 12 months. That's risen 1.7% since the election. Importantly, inflationary expectations can also create actual inflation because it affects the way people spend money. They might buy more now to beat price rises, and that causes an increase in demand and therefore an increase in inflation. Also, no mystery is where these inflationary expectations are coming from. It's the threat of tariffs, of course. Trump's people have been trying to argue that tariffs actually reduce prices for Americans.
He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs. And I'm curious why he's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people.
But this whole tariff...
I don't know how they were able to sell that. Like, it's just the country that pays it. Like, the country's not going to pass that price on to the consumer. I don't know how they think they're convincing anyone. There can't be anyone that believes that argument.
Don't cause inflation argument isn't even working on Fox News.
Don't get inflation from having a tariff, because what a tariff says is if it's made in Europe, if it's made foreign, it might cost a little more, but that which is made in America does not cost more. This concept of how about we buy American steel, we buy American aluminum, there's U.S. steel, you know it, there's Nucor, right? There's Cleveland Cliffs, we make plenty of steel in America.
Domestic
we make plenty of steel in America. Let's strengthen that.
Domestic producers can't keep up with demand. The supply is limited, demand is strong. The price is going up.
And Stuart Varney there is right. America can't just take over all foreign production instantly like that. In the case of steel prices have already gone up 20% under Trump, even before
that's the situation that's been created. It'll take a long time to get there.
Only a 6% price rise in Europe. It's very hard to deny price increases that are already occurring. So that's why, according to Marquette polling, only 32% of people are saying tariffs help the US economy, compared to 51% of people saying tariffs hurt the economy. Even amongst Republicans, only 61% say that tariffs are helping the economy. By the way, the problems don't end there either for Trump. Only 37% of people approve of how he's handling foreign policy, and 50% disapprove of that. Now, in that CNN poll you described before, John, there are all kinds of worrying numbers. Only 35% of people expressed a positive view of Elon Musk, for instance. 33%. have a favourable view of JD Vance. The only bright light I could see is, ironically, immigration. That's the one area where know-it-all pundits like us expected to be a problem for Trump somewhere down the line. 51% of people now say they approve of Trump's work on immigration, 7 points higher than at any point during his first term. Now, if I was Trump, I'd just hold on to my controlled border and I wouldn't push it at all, although there are all kinds of rumours out there that he wants to ramp up the deportations further. So we'll see how that works out for him, John.
Yeah, ironically though, if you create a recession through tariffs and you worsen that recession by expelling 10 million foreign nationals who are working in the United States, you also create a kind of a social climate where people become more anti-immigrant because they have less money and fewer jobs themselves. So it becomes a little bit self-fulfilling. But you talk about JD Vance there and his lack of popularity. He's not really helping right now. This is what JD said on Fox News a little earlier today. The fundamentals of the economy are actually quite strong right now. Rather unfortunate echoes to those old enough to remember back to 2008 at the start of the global financial crisis, then Senator John McCain, as America hurtled towards the greatest downturn since the Great Depression. He famously said that the fundamentals of our economy are strong. Yeah, but at least for Trump, he's going to avoid the possible economic damage of a government shutdown this weekend, because even though a number of Senate Democrats
they're getting everyone in a catch-22.
Their leader, Chuck Schumer, has now turned around and said, you know what, I am going to support a continuing resolution to keep the lights on for another 6 months.
Apparently, Elon wants
says that this was a very, very bad continuing resolution. He was concerned, and possibly with good cause, that if they shut the government down, Trump and Elon Musk may not reopen a lot of it. They just keep it shut down. It could be giving them what they want. So they saw a political downside as well as an economic downside as well.
Yeah, this was a win-win situation for Trump, and
people can go read the article. Oh, might just be something that I've replied in. Am I positive I said something in the thing? This is 2 days ago though. Notifications. It is Schumer says Musk wants shut down because it'll make it easier. Trump and Musk would love a shutdown. It was like in Wired or something. And that he was going to use it to his advantage. Apparently it was going to help him to fire more workers easier.
To his credit, he won in the win-win situation. It's a win for him.
Yeah, it's still extraordinary to me, though, that we're seeing Caroline Leavitt and Trump himself continuing to parrot this demonstrable falsehood that tariffs are attacks on foreign countries.
It's not working.
And even the argument that Lutnick and Navarro and others try and use to say, oh well, but it sends a price signal. If you increase the price of Chinese T-shirts in American stores, Americans will buy more American T-shirts. So you'll increase production of American T-shirts, which is fine if you've got T-shirt factories that are already making T-shirts and can make more T-shirts. But of course, if you've got to start looking for aluminium resources or iron ore, or start manufacturing cars from scratch, it just doesn't work.
You know what?
Like they might produce a couple of T-shirts.
He always loved tariffs. He ran on tariffs.
Right.
He could not be more open about tariffs. Let them go down swinging on tariffs. If like that's how it's meant to work. That's how democracy is meant to work. He should go for it. He should let his tariff flag fly. Let's see what happens. Win by the sword, die by the sword. Let's see.
Okay, we'll see how that works out, as you suggest. Speaking of polls, though, sad news this week for US politics junkies with the announcement that the 538 website is being shut down. The polling and analysis site, founded by Nate Silver back in 2008, has gone through a number of major changes and owners over the years, moving first to the New York Times in 2010, then to ABC News in 2018. It was ABC America's parent company, Disney, that decided this week to pull the plug on what was just a 15-person operation as a part of wider cuts and cost savings across the organisation. Nate Silver left 538 in 2023. And this week he tweeted the remaining employees, quote, deserved much better. Well, for more on that, we're joined by Nathaniel Rakic, the now former senior editor and election analyst at 538. Nathaniel, welcome to Planet America. Thanks for joining us this week. I know a lot of our viewers are also readers and listeners to your podcasts, and they're going to be disappointed to hear that 538 has now closed.
Oh, well, thank you. Yes, it's very sad that 538 is gone, but we think we had a really great run, and we're really proud of the work that we did. So, I think it is a time to, celebrate the good work that we did and not necessarily to mourn.
It seems to me that for years, 538 has provided a way to cut through partisanship and punditry, but does its demise now mean that people just don't want facts and data points that they don't agree with?
Maybe it's optimistic of me, but I think there is still a pretty big audience for that stuff. I think that a lot of the work that 538 has done has gone mainstream. 538 started back in 2008 as a blog, started by Nate Silver, and it really kind of took a couple of election cycles in 2008 and 2012 when Nate's analysis proved to be right on the money for people to really start paying attention and see the value in kind of a quantitative and data-driven approach to analyzing elections. But as a result, imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. Other places, legacy media companies have really taken up the mantle. And so even though it's obviously sad that 538 is gone and won't be doing this, there are a lot of good people out at other media outlets who are now really data literate and doing a really good job at analyzing elections.
Nathaniel, given that, as you say, 538's methods are now part of the wider media, would you say maybe that there's no longer a need for 538?
Well, no, obviously. I think that 538 had a role to play in analyzing elections. I think that we did work that other places have either don't do or haven't done as well. I think that our visual interactives were really beautiful. Shout out to our visual journalists for that. Some of the work we did in kind of quantifying probabilities, collecting data like all the polling data, but also more bespoke data sets. Like in the 2022 election, we collected all of the Republican candidates for Congress and their stances on the validity of the 2020 election, and that was something that no other media outlet did. So I think we were still doing really good work, and I think it is definitely a loss to not have that. But again, hopefully other places will take up the mantle and continue it.
I wonder, Nathaniel, can you give us any sort of an insight into what was happening at that sort of corporate level to reach this decision? I don't imagine that for an operation the size of Disney, laying off 15 staff isn't going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't been in those meetings, so I don't really know what the thought process was. Obviously, it's a tough time for the media industry overall, and I think that's a shame. I think we need more journalists, not fewer in this time, and again, more journalists who are doing kind of quantitative work that is evidence-driven and not kind of opinion-based and things like that. And it was a shame.
On polling more broadly, Nathaniel, since 2016 and Trump's surprise victory, there's been a lot of scepticism about polls from both the left and the right. What do you make of all those narratives, either from the right that pollsters are all liberals and they're all biased, and the left suspects that these polls are deliberately missing out on Trump voters just so that they spring a surprise? What do you make of all that?
Yeah, I think that polls have generally been as accurate as they've ever been, which is to say they're not magical. They've never been magical bullets, like in the 2008 and 2012 elections when Nate's predictions were really right on the money. Those were unusually good years, and the 2016 and 2020 elections in particular were, a little bit worse for the polls, but that's normal. They are imperfect measures of public opinion, and they come with margins of error, and I think part of the job at 538 that we did was try to explain that, right? It's not just that we are reporting on polls and saying this is the truth. It's trying to put them into context for people and helping them understand the limitations and how polling works and why when you take a sample of 1,000 Americans, that isn't necessarily going to stand in for the population of 300 million people. It's going to come pretty close, remarkably close, actually, I think, considering how far 1,000 is away from 300 million. But it is going to come with that margin of error, and helping people understand that is a big part of what we did. And so I think that it's still worth doing, and I hope that, again, other places continue to do it.
Nathaniel, are you worried about dodgy pollsters exploiting people's ignorance now that 538's analysis and polling averages aren't there to keep them in line?
Yeah, I think that the proliferation of kind of lower quality pollsters has been an issue for the last couple of years, and I do think that 538 played an important role. We did kind of investigations. Anytime there was a new pollster on the scene, we would vet them, and usually they would be okay. Occasionally they'd be very high quality. Usually they would be something that is, they'd be perfectly a valid operation, but maybe, not the highest quality, like a New York Times poll, for instance. But occasionally they would maybe be duplicitous, or the numbers would be made up. And, without 538 or a similar outlet doing that vetting work, I would be concerned about that. Again, I hope somebody else kind of takes up that call, but I think that's another important role that 538 was filling that, maybe somebody else, isn't doing right now.
And do you have any advice for reporters covering this kind of beat, how not to fall into the trap of peddling misconceptions that are debunked by the data and the polls?
Yeah, I guess I would say, use data in your coverage, consider it like any other source. I think that the advantage that polls have and that other kind of empirically driven sources have is that they are rigorous and kind of scientifically proven, and in a way that if you just go out and interview two people on the street, that isn't going to give you the same kind of overall slice of the population that a poll would give you, for example. But at the same time, you should treat a poll like any other source in that it may not be totally reliable. You should be skeptical of it. You should interrogate it and kind of include appropriate caveats and interrogate it when maybe it says something unexpected, and not just kind of take it as the granted, like take it as the automatic truth. But I definitely encourage people to use data responsibly in their stories whenever possible.
Would you say that now 538's gone, there would be particular stories or issues that will be less well served?
And I think that, election coverage, again, there are a lot of other great data journalists doing good election analysis, but I think that 538 did provide a great service in terms of aggregating all the polls, and we basically previewed and recapped most elections, even some more obscure ones. Like, we were looking forward to covering the election for state Supreme Court in Wisconsin in April, which is an important seat actually, because obviously Wisconsin is a swing state, and the Supreme Court, the control of the Supreme Court there is up for grabs in that election, and it's very important. And I think that a lot of kind of nationally focused media outlets wouldn't necessarily be covering that. But, at 538, we would live blog election nights and kind of cover the results as they come in. And, we might be able to tell you, oh, maybe this candidate has a lead right now, but it's because votes haven't been counted in this, other part of the state that's better for their opponent. And so, yeah, things like that, I worry about a little bit. And, again, not to sound like a broken record, but I hope that other places take up the mantle.
Nathaniel Rakich, thank you very much indeed for being with us on Planet America.
Thank you very much.
Now, Nathaniel was depressed.
Yeah.
So am I. Yeah. I have to say, because look, he's right. Their presentation techniques have spread through the media. You're seeing a lot more graphs than we used to, a lot more data than we used to. But you know what? We're seeing the superficial trappings of 538. What made 538 was not graphs. What made 538 was the intellectual heft behind the graphs.
Yep.
It's the old stats, there's lies, damn lies and statistics. And
I have to admit, I've never heard of it.
They went behind the statistics. They really crunched the numbers properly.
I've seen a lot of their content.
In a way that normal media just does not do. They're not capable of doing it. Stats are hard. No. Polling is hard, and most journalists, to be honest, are terrible at it. And those 538 were excellent at it, and I think they're going to be really missed. Their analysis, the level of their analysis is not
Maybe
going
it's
to be
in
there.
Stonewall.
Now they're gone.
Yeah, they haven't released any data publicly as to what's happened in the last year or so at 538 in terms of the number of page impressions. It is certainly the case that a number of media outlets, MSNBC, CNN and others, their ratings have declined significantly since the election. A lot of people, there's a bit of a tune-off factor. If they don't support Trump, they don't want to hear about what he's doing. I think it's also fair to say that Nate Silver, he became the golden boy after 2008 and 2012, correctly predicting the outcome of those elections. 2016, of course, came back down to earth, saying that there was a greater likelihood than not that Hillary Clinton was going to win. And since then, they've had a very, very good record, and Nathaniel's right, they've kind of educated us on those kind of how probabilities work and how margins of error work and all of those things. But I think, hence my first question to him, it's sort of, I do tend to think that people, they do shoot the messenger. They don't like it when the news is bad. When the polls last year were saying that Trump was gaining ground on Kamala Harris in the final weeks of the campaign, there was a lot of complaints from Democrats and the left saying that these polls are all terrible. There's all these junk Trump polls are being shoved out there to try and juice his numbers. Well, it turns out they were right. They were right. Trump was gaining ground and he won the election. So I think there's a bit of an element there as well, that people are increasingly just wanting to see their own opinions reinforced. Even if it's the data, they want the data to agree with them as well. They don't want to be contradicted at all.
I think you're right. But for those people who do follow polling averages, as you say, going into the election, there was a lot of concern about junk polls flooding the market. And what 538 did that was different to other pollsters was they allowed for the methodologies and for the track records of pollsters.
They weighted them. They didn't treat all polls as equal.
Exactly. And whereas Real Clear Politics just treats them all, just throws them into an average and that's it, right?
Yeah, including some real outliers like Rasmussen and others.
Totally. And so if people are wondering, where can we get a polling average now that's like 538? When 538 folded, there was none. It took like 3 days for Nate Silver to go, you know what? I remember how to do this. And so if you go to his Substack, which costs money, there's a free polling average there.
This is the Silver Bulletin.
There's a Silver Bulletin. Right. Yeah, like if you go there is a free polling average that works like his old 538 polling averages. So you can get a weighted polling average still, which is I'm going to be looking at. And I imagine a lot of you will as well. But other than that, 538 is good.
Yeah, well, maybe he's going to start it up all over again, just like 2008. But that is it for another weekend edition of Planet America. We'll see you back here at the same time next week, and any time you like, on ABC iView, YouTube and Facebook.
And we'll be back with a brand new midweek episode on ABC TV on Wednesday night at 9:40 p.m. Also on iView from 9 p.m. See you there.
Bye-bye.
Now I've got another one here. How Trump is making Putin's dream come true. Change the title over here. It's not it here. Does it fit? No. Let's go from dream come true. And it's still on ABC News in Depth. This one is if you're listening. Okay. And I'll make it large. And it should start straight away. No? Okay.
I missed something important last year. It was half an hour into the big presidential debate in June.
This is a pivotal moment between President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump.
Like a lot of people, I was sitting there stunned by how badly Joe Biden was going in the debate that would ultimately end his political career.
Making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. Excuse me, with.
Everyone knew that's what we were watching.
At the end of that sentence, I don't think he knows what he said either.
But in my silent stunnitude, I missed something weird that Donald Trump said. It was in part of the debate where he was criticising Biden's handling of the withdrawal of troops from Afghanistan.
Our veterans and our soldiers can't stand this guy. They can't stand him.
And then he said this about Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We left American citizens behind. When Putin saw that, he said, you know what? I think we're going to go in and maybe take this was his dream. I talked to him about it, his dream.
This was his dream. I talked to him about his dream. What an interesting thing to say. What exactly was this dream?
This is Vladimir Putin's dream.
This is a dream come true for him. Which was the Putin's dream?
I've got a pretty good idea of what Putin's dream is, and this is the best part of it.
Of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now.
A US president humiliating the leader of Ukraine and blaming him for starting the invasion of his own country.
You should have never started it. You could have made a deal.
Since he took office, Donald Trump has done a lot of things that Vladimir Putin would like. He has diverted almost all US foreign policy attention to countries in America's immediate vicinity, targeting them for tariffs and threatening to claim control of Greenland, the Panama Canal, and Canada. He has abandoned Ukraine and said if allies don't spend enough on defence, he will encourage Russia to attack them.
No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills.
These decisions make absolutely no sense if you look at them from the point of view of traditional US foreign policy. But that's not what this is. This isn't traditional US foreign policy. This is Putin's dream. So what comes next in the Russian president's fantasy? I'm Matt Bevan, and this is If You're Listening. If you were watching the TV news channel Crimea 24 in early February, and honestly, who wasn't? You'd have seen a report about a new artwork. It's a painting of Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Chinese President Xi Jinping sitting side by side in armchairs. It's being displayed in the grounds of the Levadia Palace near the Crimean town of Yalta, and it's reminiscent of another artwork nearby. Elsewhere in the palace grounds is a sculpture of three world leaders from the past: British Prime Minister Winston Churchill, US President Franklin Roosevelt, and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin, also seated in chairs side by side. Those three men attended the Yalta Conference of 1945. The Trump, Putin, and Xi in the new artwork are attending a theoretical future second Yalta Conference.
Okay.
The artwork is called Yalta 2.0. So, let's go back to 1945 for a moment.
The beautiful Crimean seaside town of Yalta was the setting for the latest and greatest conference of the Big Three.
Yalta 1.0. Stalin invited Churchill, Roosevelt, and their staff to visit the seaside town, and they had an extremely strange time.
The summer palace of Tsar Nicholas II is the setting for Russia's welcome.
The palace was in disrepair. Most of the toilets were broken, the staff had all been flown in from Moscow hotels, and when someone mentioned that there were no lemons for cocktails, Stalin flew in a whole lemon tree.
The conference is to seal Hitler's fate and establish lasting peace.
At the time, Stalin was the belle of the ball.
Into the palace courtyard sweeps the long black car bearing one of the greatest military leaders of all time, Marshal of the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin.
This is a British propaganda movie, by the way.
Representatives of the three powers take their places for the beginning of the Crimean Conference.
There was a reason that they were all gassing up Stalin. The Soviet Union had done the majority of the actual fighting against the Nazis, losing at least 20 million soldiers and civilians in the process. But now that Hitler was almost defeated, Roosevelt wanted Stalin to join the war against Japan. Stalin would only agree to do so if his demands were met. And Roosevelt was inclined to meet them.
Franklin Roosevelt looked tired and old.
Stalin wanted control over part of a petitioned and denazified Germany. Easy peasy. Check. He wanted control over several lightly populated Pacific islands between Japan and Russia that Roosevelt had probably never heard of. Check. He wanted access to some Chinese infrastructure, railroads and ports. Well, we'll have to ask the Chinese, but I'm sure that'll be fine. Check. And he wanted temporary control of Poland. Well, just until elections were held there. Churchill was extremely sceptical. For years. As the Soviet Union was collapsing 35 years ago, there were some efforts to preserve the boundaries that were set at Yalta. Soviet officials really didn't want states that were formerly part of their empire to become part of the Western alliance, bringing Europe closer to Russia's borders. In an effort to get the Soviet Union to sign a treaty that would allow East and West Germany to reunite, US officials floated a guarantee that the Western NATO alliance would not expand closer to Russia. Of course, the Western NATO alliance did expand, and now almost a dozen former Soviet sphere countries are firm allies of the United States and European Union. Moscow didn't do much more than grumble very Russianly about this for 25 years, but in 2014, a pro-European revolution in Ukraine was the final straw for Putin.
We turn tonight to the tension rising around the world as Russian President Vladimir Putin casts his shadow across the boundary of Europe and Russia. Tonight, his troops are holding firm in a corner of Ukraine known as Crimea.
A year after invading Crimea, Vladimir Putin laid out his reasons why at the United Nations.
Уважаемые дамы и господа, коллеги, 10 января
He said that in 1945, the Yalta system was born in his country at the cost of tens of millions of lives and 2 world wars. He said the system had saved the world from large-scale upheavals. He said that after the collapse of the Soviet Union, Western countries gave the former Soviet states a false choice between joining the West or staying under the influence of Moscow. He said that the revolution that overthrew his puppet president in Ukraine was a Western-backed coup. He was basically saying, well, I had to invade because you crossed the line. You got it into your head that once the Cold War is over, America was the only superpower. And so we all had to do it your way. America created a unipolar world where everything revolves around them. Putin and his friend, Chinese President Xi Jinping, think this.
And now he's like trying to reverse it. It's so weird. Like they tout their, like how powerful and spectacular America is, and you make America great again, but that seems to be as an isolated country. I don't know. That's what it seems to me.
This is terrible. They believe in a multipolar world with separate spheres of influence like the one after Yalta. Putin wants a Yalta 2.0. Divide the world again, then just leave us alone to do what we want with our bit of it. This was never going to happen under George W. Bush or Barack Obama. But after Donald Trump became president in 2017, a window opened, as Putin critic and former world chess champion Garry Kasparov explained at the time.
I think Putin had a dream of doing it in Yalta. And imagine how easy it is to sell to Donald Trump. In Yalta, Putin will be like Stalin, you will be like FDR. Grand bargain.
Putin's
Trump
dream,
loves that sort of thing.
A grand bargain. The art of the deal.
Dividing the world. Who cares about all this? Estonia, Latvia, Bulgaria. We're here big guys making big deals. We decide the future of the world. Can you sell it to Trump? Something tells me you can.
So, is Kasparov right?
Donald Trump arrived in Helsinki for a summit with no agenda.
It was 2018, and Donald Trump had spent a few days in Belgium antagonising America's friends.
These days, it's hard to tell who he regards as friend or foe.
I think the European Union is a foe, what they do to us in trade. Now, you wouldn't think of the European Union, but they're a foe.
Then he flew onwards to meet with America's traditional foe, Vladimir Putin. The presidential palace in Helsinki, Finland, is in much better condition than the one at Yalta in 1945. Well, at least the toilets work.
The two men will have time alone with just interpreters before being joined by senior advisors.
For years afterwards, what they talked about in their 2-hour private meeting was a massive mystery. While Trump never talked to anyone about what happened during that meeting, the translator briefed Trump's aides, who then all wrote books about it once he was out of office. And according to those books, Vladimir Putin started talking and then basically didn't shut up for 2 hours, speaking for 90% of the time that the two men were together. He was going on about history and Ukraine and NATO expansion and all the stuff that he loves going on about. I personally wouldn't have been able to stand it. A few years ago, Putin wrote an article basically outlining all the reasons that he does what he does, and I forced myself to read all 7,000 words and... It's so long and boring and wrong. But Trump...
Well, I'm glad he did it for her.
Remember a few episodes ago we talked about how Trump groups people into people he respects and people he doesn't respect?
Do you respect Putin?
I do respect him.
Do you?
but
Why?
Well, I respect a lot of people.
Most of the people Trump respects are either billionaires or nuclear-armed world leaders, especially nuclear-armed authoritarian world leaders. In 2020, he told journalist Bob Woodward,
"It's funny, the relationships I have, the tougher and meaner they are, the better I get along with them. You'll explain that to me someday, okay? But maybe it's not a bad thing. The easy ones are the ones I maybe don't like as much or don't get along with as much."
Putin and Trump have spoken fairly frequently since that discussion in Helsinki. Bob Woodward reported that they had potentially had as many as 7 phone calls during Joe Biden's time in the White House. And it seems like during those conversations, Putin has convinced Trump that a new Yalta is the right move.
A big part of the problem was Russia for many, many years, long before Putin said you could never have NATO involved with Ukraine. Now, they've said that. That's been, like, written in stone.
Putin could not have said it better himself. For what it's worth, it wasn't written in stone. It was a deal floated with the Soviet Union, which no longer exists.
Somewhere along the line, Biden said, no, they should be able to join NATO. Well, then Russia has somebody right on their doorstep, and I could understand their feeling about that.
He also seems to understand Russia's feeling that it was Ukraine's fault that the war started.
You should have never started it. You could have made a deal. I could have made a deal for Ukraine that would have given them almost all of the land, everything, almost all of the land, and no people would have been killed, and no city would have been demolished, and not one dome would have been knocked down.
I'm pretty sure the deal that he's talking about is one where Ukraine is left open to Russian interference in their politics and Russian invasion if that interference doesn't produce outcomes satisfactory to Russia. Basically like what they had before their revolution in 2014. That's fair enough in Trump's eyes, because Ukraine will be in Russia's sphere, following a nice chat with Putin, possibly at a palace in Yalta with a working, preferably gold toilet. Meanwhile, countries near America will be left open to American interference in their politics and crushing American tariffs if that interference doesn't produce outcomes satisfactory to America.
Oh my. Look, we have Tomb Raider. She exists. Tomb Raider. Wow. Do you have styles? Selectable styles. Okay. Can I look at them? Oh my. Oh my god. That's pretty awesome. Wow. $1,500 on her own. She got disc thing. Satchel. That's pretty cute. What is this? Oh. Okay. I kind of want to get this set. Wait. See, my friend has a Jeep. And, well, I don't have a Jeep. Well, like, you know, this car, the SUV car. Maybe I could get this one. Because it's Tomb Raider. 2,000. That's a lot. Her and the car would wipe me out. Like the bundle. Man. I wonder how long it's there for. 27th of March. Okay, I've got a while to think about it. Look at the styles. Colors. But what about that dirty color? Oh, I see here. You can pick what color you want it. What is this? And then these, the normal ones. Tomb Raider car. Very cool. Okay, we've got locker bundles. Oh. Wait, don't own her. Why is this so expensive? Not the greatest deal. Not like I really want that skin. Yeah, we looked at these last night. Hey. She's pretty cool. She's a good deal. Like for 800, she got 3 styles. She's pretty cool. Looked at those last night. Looked at, what's this? I did not know. I'd have to turn the copyrighted music on. What else? The Arc. Okay. A lot in the shop. Alright, I will rewind. Oh. Ah, I see. I will rewind the video a little tiny bit.
One dome would have been knocked down.
I'm pretty sure the deal that he's talking about is one where Ukraine is left open to Russian interference in their politics and Russian invasion if that interference doesn't produce outcomes satisfactory to Russia. Basically like what they had before their revolution in 2014. That's fair enough in Trump's eyes, because Ukraine will be in Russia's sphere, following a nice chat with Putin, possibly at a palace in Yalta with a working, preferably gold, toilet. Meanwhile, countries near America will be left open to American interference in their politics and crushing American tariffs if that really interference doesn't produce outcomes satisfactory to America.
I'm a fan. Let's get
it sounds a bit insane, but also it's exactly what Trump has been talking about ever since he won the election. He is obsessed with controlling nearby countries.
Well, I think Canada is going to be a very serious contender to be our 51st state. But we need Greenland for national security and even international security. We didn't give it to China.
Don't have one.
We gave it to Panama, and we're taking it back.
In fact, Putin's dream kind of explains most decisions that Trump has made since coming into office. His decision to directly negotiate with Russia over the war in Ukraine without inviting the Ukrainians.
I'm finding it more difficult, frankly, to deal with Ukraine.
Color-wise.
And they don't have the cards.
His decision to ambush and humiliate the Ukrainian president.
Your country is in big trouble.
I know.
You're not winning.
I know.
You're not winning this. You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of this.
His decision to cut off US financial aid to developing countries, which he claims aren't America's problem.
In the African nation of Lesotho, which
never let him answer a question.
And his decision to implement tariffs aimed at making the United States self-sufficient, even if it makes the United States poorer. In this new multipolar world order, Trump is doubling down on his patch and leaving Putin to his. Trump and Putin aren't building an alliance. Roosevelt and Stalin didn't build an alliance at Yalta. They're changing the world order of the last 35 years. The US is giving up its role as the world's only true global superpower. Trump is focusing on America's neighbourhood, and he seems to be handing Putin and Xi Jinping a knife and telling them to cut the rest of the cake however they like. What does this mean for countries like Ukraine or Taiwan, who staked their democracies on this unipolar world order and the American protection it offered? And what about us? Whose sphere do we fall in Australia? And Yalta, the first one, the last time that we had a multipolar world, it led to a nuclear arms race. What would a shift like this mean for global security? I'm sure Trump's thought of all this, though, and has a good plan for dealing with it. Now, I think it's time I poured a glass of vodka and got myself Yalted.
Do we think he's thought about it, though? I don't know. Like, that's pretty convincing that he's been given some spin on this Yalta thing, you know, be part of this history, world-changing thing, like, you know, maybe that's it, and he's just... And see, America on its own, I guess, can defend itself. It's got plenty of missiles and stuff. I don't know. What does it think it's doing in Australia with, like, Pine Gap and all of those sort of things? We've got actual US troops stationed here. Like, how is that all going to fit into it? So we're really living like a full change in history, you know, along that line. And, you know, maybe it is some setup to do a Yalta, but I don't know. Would Putin be interested in more than, I guess he would march across Europe? Is that something that he's looking to do? How far would China march? Where does countries like Australia and you know, or India or something come into it, you know? So, yeah, it's really interesting stuff. We're living some really interesting times. Blows me away. Freaks me out. Alright, I've nearly, I did go in and play a little bit more last night when I was off stream because I was just too tired to sort of stay focused on stream the way I was, and my mood wasn't fantastic. But I did manage to, isn't it just, oh, well, you can see it. I think you can see it. Still sort of juggling things a little. It means the video screen's going to cover the map and certain things, but oh well. So I have 97%. So I want to crack that. Right. What is that humble? What are they talking about humble? Maybe it's in the past? No. I have no idea. No idea what it's doing. Alright. Actually, I might go and get a drink. And then I'm going to play a little ranked. Be back in a minute. Okay. All right. So we finished that video. So he's great. Matt Bevan. I recommend people go and I mean, you can't really follow him specifically. You have to follow ABC News. But then what I've done is I've gone and like followed the playlist. Like, I haven't tried this one yet. America, are you okay? Could give it a try. Beautiful playlist. The Americans hate their democracy 5 months ago. I mean, it seems a bit dated now. Like, the world's changed so much. These could be interesting. Okay. This guy's great. He gets my frustrations out for me. What CNN and MSNBC were labeled illegal by Donald Trump. Wow. Tesla shares plunge. JD Vance booed. People saying
Thank you for joining us for this NSO concert. We invite you to explore our digital program to learn more about his performance.
Yep, there he is. Boo! Hush. Boo!
If you can't act like an adult, go somewhere else.
Yeah, he just ruined. They ruined this place. Boo! Boo! Boo!
Lenny waves. I wonder what they're talking about. That's what I wonder. I wonder what she said, like what they said to each other. Like,
go control yourself. Yeah, you keep saying that about January 6th. Boo!
There's so much footage of this. Everyone had their cameras out. What? So JD didn't even clap for the orchestra. Wow. What was that? What was that? This is going to be funny. Let's have a look.
And by the way, I have to speak of inflation. I love these socks. What's with these socks?
It's in honor of the T-shirts.
I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's socks.
Whatever. Okay. I was gonna watch this one, I thought, from Internet Today. So I have to change the title up here. So I don't know how well this is going to work. Tesla haters. No, we only make it to Tesla. Tesla haters criminals, TechNewsDay, and then this channel. This is two American fellas. I don't know, probably discovered them like a year or so ago. Soon after I discovered sort of Phil DeFranco. They're ones I just didn't ever know about them. I think Phil I'd sort of seen maybe a little bit before. These guys are great. Again, they can sort of get my frustrations out for me. You know, their exasperated tones and stuff. All right. now. Okay. Wait, did I give this an updo? Did I give I'm listening an updo? I didn't give if you're listening an updo. That's bad. Okay.
We have a lot to get to today, including Rodrigo Duterte getting arrested. We might get to that on Weekly Weird News, but we should, of course, start with the legitimately outrageous and blatantly corrupt fire sale that took place on the White House lawn Tuesday, where amidst dropping public sentiment and, more specifically, a substantial drop in stock value, the President of the United States hosted a car commercial for an unelected official who has done irreparable harm to vital government agencies, and then instructed people to buy that man's cars, while appearing to read off of a list of bullet points that would feel right at home in the sales department at a Tesla dealership.
You're gonna love the way you look. It's a little too loud.
And then he said, I'm gonna purchase one myself. In fact, I'm picking out my model right now.
No, I have not driven a car in several decades now, but I just have to have one of these Teslas.
Or, as you pointed out before we started filming, he acted like he had never seen a Tesla before, but as you pointed out, Aiden Ross gifted him a Cybertruck 8 months ago.
Where is that Cybertruck? He got in it and everything.
What is Aiden Ross? Chopped liver?
All right.
Anyways,
Aims just to
in addition to all of this, Trump also gave his first signal towards criminalizing Musk and Tesla protests. Folks,
you had me in the first half.
We have what I think might be our first Goya Beans moment this time around, and it came barely 2 months into the administration. And it's also even more corrupt than simply endorsing a brand who supports you. This is an obvious and blatant conflict of interest. It's corrupt, and no one really seems to care all that much.
It's so beyond the pale. Like, if this was any other
no one knows how to stop it.
It would be shocking and also just very uncouth. But, on top of everything else, sure, yeah, the guy's doing a car commercial on the White House lawn. Fuck it.
The only small silver lining here is that this is another fulfillment of one of our predictions that we made on this show years ago. That Musk's pivot to the right would somehow end with Trump attempting to convince conservatives to buy electric cars.
And I don't think it's going to work. It also aligns with a prediction we made just days ago that
he would criminalize protests against Tesla?
Yes, that not liking Tesla would be a hate crime.
Yeah.
This is, by the way, all happening while Trump is taking significant steps towards curbing EV car sales in this country.
I'm so confused.
But irony has been dead for quite a while, so let's just get into the ridiculous post that he made on Truth Social about Elon's car company and how people are being really nasty to him. And if you're nasty to Elon, well, you're a domestic terrorist.
I guess so.
The whole escapade feels like a kid who brings his dad to handle a bully, except in this case, the loser being bullied is one of the richest, most powerful men on earth, and the people that he's being bullied by are just average American citizens.
Seems pretty lopsided. Doesn't seem like you can bully someone with that much power, honestly.
It's very unfair. And talking about, Elon, obviously not close with his dad, but Elon's mom has, in fact, come to his defense multiple times on social media and on television. She's being very mean to my smart little boy.
Remember when she stepped in to stop the fight between Musk and Zuckerberg so that her son wouldn't have to back out?
How about you do a joke-telling contest instead?
Yes, Mrs. Musk, that's right. We'll do a joke-telling contest.
Anyway, here's what Elon's dad had to say on Truth Social. To Republicans, conservatives, and all great Americans, Elon Musk is putting it on the line in order to help our nation, and he's doing a fantastic job. But the radical left lunatics, as they often do, are trying to illegally and collusively boycott Tesla, one of the world's greatest automakers, and Elon's baby, in order to attack and do harm to Elon and everything he stands for. They tried to do it to me at the 2024 presidential ballot box, but how did that work out? In any event, I'm going to buy a brand new Tesla tomorrow morning as a show of confidence and support for Elon Musk, a truly great American. Why should he be punished for putting his tremendous skills to work in order to help make America great again?
So Trump posted that, and within hours, he was photographed getting some
road their impression
by Elon Musk on the White House lawn. Hey, check it out.
Yes, sir.
He just shined my shoes.
Years ago, I said that if I had told Elon Musk to get down on his knees, he would have done it. Today, we find out if I was right.
Yeah. Roadhead, they didn't have this back in my day.
Folks, he's doing it. I'm getting fellatio from the world's richest man.
And wouldn't you believe it, the car's driving itself.
You can do it in a Tesla.
It's legal now. But I guess Elon's shrewd business tactics work. Fellatio. Because Trump bought a Tesla and instructed all true American patriots to go out and do the same. Buy electric cars. And again, I'm getting some mixed messages here. I mean, sorry, I'm not getting mixed messages. This is actually classic Trump. I think that
No, I'm getting mixed messages.
Maybe the general public is getting some mixed messages, but I can see it pretty clearly. No one brown noses harder than Elon. Elon helped Trump win and contributed hundreds of millions of dollars to his campaign. Elon is helping Trump destroy the government and tank the economy. People, many of them fired or otherwise hurt by these policies,
Elon's
don't like what he's doing. So his cars are
like that family member that you never see that turns up at the end when the rich person's about to die and like
companies properly. His net worth is dropping by billions, and then boom, Trump
in the
steps in to save
family.
him, does this huge performative stunt for the cameras, causing the Tesla stock to be the only green one amidst a sea of red at various points throughout Tuesday and Wednesday, as the broader market continues to react negatively to Trump's trade war, and world markets continue to lose faith in the American economy.
I'm going to say this at risk of my job, Kelly, but what President Trump is doing is insane.
I will say that, it was up, but you would think...
Up relative to what it's been.
Yeah, I mean,
it's still down 50%.
If the president can literally, the most politically powerful person on earth, can go on TV and tell everyone to go buy your car and you get like a 3.5% bump on your stock, that's not a good sign, I would say. That's dire.
Yeah. And meanwhile, the rest of the stock market is doing very poorly, obviously. But hey, as Trump put it after seeing a Tesla for what he claims was the first time, apparently.
The first time that he remembers.
Wow, whole car is computer.
This is a different panel than I've had. Everything's computer.
I believe he's never been in one.
It's all computer in here, folks.
Sure, why not?
Again, that's my...
Certainly not in the front seat.
These Teslas, and why people are so impressed the first time around is because it was the first car to just...
But I wouldn't be surprised if he's never been in one.
People went, wow, like big screen TV I watch sport on.
Yeah, although that, the novelty around that is
very quick.
It's so old at this point that like a lot of car makers, based on feedback from their customers, have brought the knobs and buttons back, because turns out it's actually when you're driving a fucking car at high speed and you want to turn up the air conditioning, you don't want to be tapping through fucking menus.
And old people don't want to use voice.
Exactly.
Actually, no one really does.
Anyway, with more on this and the reaction from elected officials, here's CNBC.
And screens fail.
Beside him, Trump declared the vehicles beautiful, and in particular praised the company's unusually designed
Need to have
Cybertruck.
a manual
As soon as I
backup.
saw it, I said, that is the coolest design.
It's crazy.
By reviewing the Teslas in public before cameras, Trump ensured that his purchase would receive wide attention.
Is that?
Dan Scavino, a White House deputy chief of staff,
what
live
is that
streamed the event
one?
on X, the social media app owned by Musk. The White House did not immediately respond to a request for comment on the application of ethics rules. Trump said he would pay for the vehicle by check.
Elon,
can you take a check?
The check is in the mail, Elon. Actually, I'm right here. So it's in the mail. It's already
Okay, so he's
US
gonna
Postal Service. It might take a
Elon.
little while.
I am by your side
Hilarious.
nearly 24 hours a day. Maybe you could just hand me the check.
The reporting continues. The company's shares have declined every week since Musk went to Washington, and they fell 15% on Monday before rebounding
He
Tuesday.
got credit.
Asked whether his purchase might help Tesla's stock, Trump said, I hope it does. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, basically,
Doing
they
some
asked,
stock manipulation here.
they asked if this demonstration and performative gesture was on its face corrupt, and Trump answered in the affirmative. Yep.
Me and a bunch of people I talked to have all placed
large bets.
All placed large bets on the stock going up today, and so that's the whole point of this. We make money.
Yeah.
During the event, Trump held a piece of paper with notes about Tesla features, according to photos of the notes published by Getty Images. The notes appeared to be something of a sales pitch, including details that Teslas could be purchased for $299 a month, and that all vehicles
he gave
have
them away at
self-driving.
the end.
A reference to the company's suite of driver assistance features, which cost extra and still require human supervision and don't work too good.
Yeah.
Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut called this what it was over on the bad site, saying, Just because the corruption plays out in public doesn't mean it's not corruption.
Yeah, that's right. It's correct.
Yeah, this is... And Reuters went into detail about Trump's plans to criminalize Tesla protesters if they engage in violence. Yeah. And who knows how broadly that'll be interpreted.
Yeah, what's your definition of violence? Is like it's going to be like
words can feel like violence.
Yeah,
silence is violence.
You don't talk. Violence.
Yeah, they're just going to change the definition of every word.
From Tesla dealerships, where there is a substantial show of force protecting the building and vehicles.
There's going to be no substance to anything.
Job that they do. Violence against Tesla dealerships will be labeled domestic terrorism, and perpetrators will go through hell.
Literally rewriting the language.
On Tuesday, in a show of support for the electric car maker's chief, his ally, Elon Musk.
Yeah, of course, the juxtaposition isn't lost on us. It's just very sad that we're at a point where, on one hand, taxpayer-funded police officers are guarding Tesla dealerships just in case, while at the same time, legal residents are being disappeared and having their citizenship status revoked because they protested a genocide that the United States agrees with. The activists have lately staged so-called Tesla takedown protests to voice displeasure over Musk's role in sweeping cuts to the federal workforce at the behest of Trump and cancellation of contracts that fund humanitarian programs around the world.
Black market.
They're harming a great American company, Trump said at the White House, referring to the demonstrators. Let me tell you, you do it to Tesla and you do it to any company, we're going to catch you and you're going to go through hell. White House spokesperson Harrison Field said, ongoing and heinous acts of violence against Tesla by radical leftist activists are nothing short of domestic terror. A group said that it was an organizer of the Tesla takedown protests responded in a statement on social media platform Blue Sky that it was peaceful and opposed violence. Quote, peaceful protest on public property is not domestic terrorism. They are trying to intimidate us. We will not let them succeed, the group said, calling for people to join the protests. Trump could direct the U.S. Justice Department to charge Tesla dealership vandals under terrorism statutes, though it is unclear if those charges would hold up in court, according to legal experts.
Yeah, I mean, so there have been instances of vandalism at these protests, but mostly not. Mm-hmm. A few Tesla charging stations have been caught on fire, but not as part of any protest. So it's hard to tell what they're really talking about. Other than someone maybe writing with a Sharpie on a window.
Yeah, it seems to be putting this out in front as justification for getting up.
But they're talking about this as if we're already in like week 2 of the George Floyd protest.
Oh yeah, no, like this has been going on for a very long time, and then Tesla dealerships are burning down across the country.
It just doesn't correlate with reality.
Teslas are rolling through cities on fire. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't make sense.
But like, would the people in New Orleans who threw beads at those Teslas?
Yes.
Are they terrorists?
I guess so.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the bizarre tale of Tesla's sales and their stock value, it continues to take interesting new turns, as if a computer is driving it. But one interesting news story that popped up recently involves Tesla sales in Canada, or as Trump calls it, our beautiful 51st state.
Yeah.
It looks like Tesla might have, allegedly, allegedly cooked some numbers in order to take advantage of lucrative Canadian EV rebate incentives.
Something very strange happened here.
Right before they expired. And in doing so, stiffed a ton of dealerships across that country who had to come out of pocket to offset the costs and pay their customers the rebates. Here's EV news site Electrek, which is typically very friendly to Musk.
Less so in recent years.
Yes.
Electrek was for quite some time basically a fan blog for Tesla.
And their summary was great because it sourced the Toronto Star as well as CTV, which did video reports on it, so there wasn't like text attributed to it. So here's Electrek.
Transport Canada is looking into Tesla after it made a suspicious number of rebate requests on the last days of the Canadian EV incentive program. A single dealership in Quebec would have delivered around 4,000 vehicles in a single weekend, which is physically impossible. According to a report from the Toronto Star, 4 Tesla locations claim to have sold 8,653 electric vehicles in the last 3 days of the rebate. They filed for $43.1 million in rebates, more than half of the $71.8 million in remaining funds. Tesla's location in Quebec City alone filed more than 2,500 rebates in a single day and 4,000 over the weekend. Considering the location can hold only a few hundred cars and that the company needs to have delivered the vehicle to file the rebate, people are suspicious that Tesla could have actually delivered the cars when it says it did. The suspicious surge in filings from Tesla has resulted in other dealers being stuck without rebates. The Canadian
Crack the
Automobile
code.
Dealers Association, CADA, surveyed its dealers, and it found that they are stuck with 2,295 unreimbursed rebates worth about $10 million.
Turns out he got you up there
Nice.
too, Canada.
Yeah, and
I
like,
wonder
grabbed you
if
by
they
the purse.
fixed the
not only is it
umbrella
like
yet.
physically impossible, they don't have that kind of inventory, but they would have to sell like multiple cars per minute.
Yeah.
For this to
it's impossible.
even be true.
Now, it should go without saying that Canada is also justifiably a little pissed off at our country right now for
Oh, what
obvious
really?
reasons.
What's going on?
And we're sure that ripping off one of their government incentive programs and just regular Canadian businesses isn't helping relations. But if for some reason you're somehow confused as to why everyone is just so dang upset with Elon Musk all of a sudden,
trying to make things more efficient.
well, we have some more
play
Doge
again.
news
I
for
should-
you, and
I
that, of
should.
course, is the Department of Government Efficiency. And the Trump-Musk administration
one more of
has
these,
fulfilled
and then
another one of their goals, which is also
I'll
conveniently
go and
one of the
play
big
like a
goals for
cozy
Project
game of
2025
some
as well.
sort. Something
Dismantling the
else,
Department
something
of Education.
different.
It was announced that the
Maybe,
Department of
maybe
Education will
Diorama
be laying off
builder.
nearly half of its entire workforce, essentially killing a department that has already been hamstrung by Republican presidents for decades. Oh no, that's Linda McMahon's music.
Yeah, it sounds like The Undertaker's music, but she's using it in this case.
And she's walking slowly but suspiciously towards the microphone to announce that they are firing half of the federal workforce.
She just chokeslammed the Department of Education through the top of the Hell in a Cell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
By God.
Here's ABC News with more.
The Department of Education on Tuesday announced it is cutting its workforce by nearly 50% as the Trump administration proceeds with its plans to dismantle the agency. Today's reduction in force reflects the Department of Education's commitment to efficiency, accountability, and ensuring that resources are directed where they matter most, to students, parents, and teachers. What? Secretary of Education Linda McMahon said in a statement. I appreciate the work of the dedicated public servants and their contributions to the department. This is a significant step towards
Siphon
restoring the
returns to
greatness of the
rank.
United States education system. What? The announcement came hours after department staff were told all department offices in
Siphon?
Washington, D.C. and all regional offices would be closed Wednesday for security reasons. The Education Department has numerous responsibilities, including enforcing non-discrimination policies in schools. It is also tasked with distributing federal financial aid for education and collecting and disseminating data and research related to schools. It also supports federal college loan programs and Pell Grants, as well as vocational training.
Well, we got to get rid of that. Especially after we've spent at least 50 years slowly dismantling it from within.
This is going to be a really set in just a few months. Really, like within the next month and a half, I think, when people start filling out their FAFSA forms. Everyone who's a senior in high school right now who maybe can't afford the exorbitant tuition costs in this country will be filing out the FAFSA form to see if they are entitled to any financial aid. And for many people, it is the difference between going to college or not going to college.
Well, the Trump administration would literally prefer if you do not go to college.
I know.
Yeah.
I think there's probably a lot of Trump supporters, though,
Actually
who were planning on going to college,
Go
can't
off.
actually afford to go to college, and are
Rank.
faced with some
So we
cognitive-
won't be hot dropping
They're gonna have to.
today.
Oh, he finally
have to
came
think
for
through
me.
this.
No. But elsewhere, in the dumbest fucking cuts you've ever heard of, FEMA has canceled classes at the National Fire Training Academy because of funding cuts.
Don't need it. Fires don't happen.
Yeah, we should at this point remind you
Fine.
that all of these cuts are being done so that Trump and other rich assholes can continue to give themselves massive tax cuts. They have to take from all these
Everything.
programs in order to offset all the tax cuts.
Yeah.
It's
If they
even
were serious
impacting
about
Australian
eliminating the deficit,
university
they would simply tax
research.
billionaires what they owe instead of destroying programs that are vital to society, which cost relatively nothing compared to what billionaires owe.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know, cutting fire training. Let's just cut fire training 2 months.
Yeah, we don't need fire training.
2 months after some of the most destructive fires in the country's history.
Well, those were anomalies.
How do they
100-year
justify
fire.
that?
Here's the Associated
That's
Press.
not
The country's
woke.
preeminent federal fire training
For
academy
fuck's
canceled
sake.
classes effective immediately on Saturday amid the ongoing flurry of funding freezes and staffing cuts by President Donald Trump's administration. The Federal Emergency Management Agency announced that the National Fire Academy courses were canceled amid a process of evaluating agency programs and spending to ensure alignment with administration priorities, according to a notice sent to instructors, students, and fire departments. Instructors were told to cancel all future travel until further notice. Firefighters, EMS providers, and other first responders from across the country travel to the NFA's Maryland campus for the federally funded institution's free training programs.
And that's got to be a fun program, true. They're probably lighting stuff on fire.
How is
if
that
this is
going
your
to
goal as
achieve
employment and you
anything
want to help people,
good?
it's probably a real fun time to learn your trade.
I bet you during our fires back in January, Trump heard second or third hand that we had prisoners putting out the fires.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, so we got slaves to do this for us? Well, why do we need to spend all this money on fire? I mean, throw the prisoners out there.
I mean,
do you think
seems
that's
like something
possible?
he would like, just upon hearing just even the most basic facts about it. Ooh.
He tied that to the probationary workers and then was like, yeah, these are all probationary workers.
Yeah.
They're all serving sentences.
Oh my
probationary
God.
workers,
But he doesn't understand. It's a program for
It
very
sounds stupid, but he might actually
specific
think that. He
prisoners.
said dumber things. Anyways, their reporting continues.
The NFA is a powerhouse
Wow.
for the fire service, said Mark
I
Bashur,
don't care.
former Maryland
Chain 'em
Fire
up.
Chief and West Virginia Emergency Services Director.
Put them on a
with
chain
44 years
gang
of
and
fire
put them out
safety
there in
experience.
front of a fire.
It's not a nice to have. It is the one avenue we have to bring people from all over the country to learn from and with each other. If we want to continue to have one of the premier fire services in the world, we need to have the National Fire Academy. The Academy, which also houses the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial, opened in 1973 to combat a growing number of fatal fires nationwide. At the time, the National Commission on Fire Prevention and Control envisioned it to be the West Point of the fire service, according to a report from the organization. Bashur said the NFA was set to welcome a new set of fire safety officers for training next week. People had made their plane and travel reservations, and all of a sudden they get an email that's, sorry, it's been canceled, he said. It's really upsetting.
I've got a
for
friend
firefighters,
that wants
including
to
those on the front lines of deadly fires that
get
ravaged
into.
California
He
this
might
year.
even
Having an essential
be
training institution shut down under the presumption that
affected
there's
by
waste,
this,
fraud, and abuse
potentially.
has been demoralizing, Bashur said. He said losing NFA training could make
Like
the
he might have
coordinated
been in that
response that
group.
prevented additional deaths and destruction in California more difficult.
Yeah, I would
I
say.
mean, Trump hears that and he's like, wait, really?
Oh, yeah. sounds
More
like a
dead
bonus.
Californians? More dead liberals?
We know. All of this sounds like an awful lot like the plans that have been put forth by the Heritage Foundation's Project 2025. But you silly goose.
Never heard of it.
You fucking assholes. He said he hadn't read that.
Yeah. It's too long. You think I read that shit?
Obviously, candidate Trump swore up and down, left, right, and center that he had nothing to do with Project 2025. And in fact, and this part I do believe, he hadn't even read it.
Yeah.
But obviously that was bullshit. I mean, yeah, he didn't read it. He didn't physically read it because he doesn't physically read. But
he needs glasses.
Absolutely aligned with it, and he's being guided by Project 2025 and its authors,
He's
who are
let them
and have
have
been heavily
control of
involved in his
everything
administrations,
and
including
to
this one.
decide how everything's
Now,
going to
someone
happen.
has put together a
other
website
than
that tracks
his
Trump's
things
progress
that he
towards
does
fully completing the
just on
goals within
whimsy.
Project 2025. And it looks like he's been pretty busy. If he's the Domino's tracker, the pizza has left the building. It is
The pizza is on its way, and it is hot.
It is hot and ready. Ow! With over 1,400 days left in office, the Trump administration has already completed nearly half of the Heritage Foundation's policy goals, which is horrifying, but unsurprising to anyone who's been paying attention at all, the slightest. Now, their site, which we'll link in the description, it features the tracker with several options and categories and has links to all the sources for every completed task that falls in line with something put forth in Project 2025.
Obviously, we highly doubt that showing this tracker to someone will bring them some sort of epiphany that Trump is a liar. You see, Dad, he said he didn't even know about Project 2025, but he's completing all of their goals in rapid succession. Shut up, lib, son.
Yeah, get out of my house. Wait, no, I need someone to take care of me. Get back in here. I want to see my grandkids.
Yeah.
Get back in here.
No one cares. That doesn't surprise us. If you watch the Sam Cedar debates 20 college Republicans Jubilee video, you
Oh my
understand
God,
that these people
Jubilee.
are simply unreachable.
Yes.
They are working off of a
Jubilee
simple
just
dialogue
fucking
tree and cannot deviate
made
from
me
it.
so angry.
And they have clearly been fed disinformation that they are taking at face value and repeating as if it is true.
Yeah.
I made it.
I finished it last night. I
didn't make it 20
I had to
minutes.
watch it in chunks.
I haven't. I paused it at around 19 minutes. I couldn't take it anymore.
There was one dude towards the end that I did
I
end up
made it
skipping
halfway
because it was
through.
just this like circle of just yelling the same shit over again. I'm like,
Yeah.
But anyways,
Made it halfway
is good
through.
that
I was pretty
someone
proud about
is
it.
cataloging, organizing, and tracking all this stuff with sources that tie it back.
Stop watching
for future
Jubilee a
records.
while ago.
The Library of Alexandria is currently burning, but someone's out there collecting this info.
I mean, it still strikes me. Obviously, it doesn't fucking matter in the end, but it still strikes me as very just bold that they even published Project 2025 publicly.
Yeah.
It didn't matter in the end.
No.
And they were right.
Yeah.
Fuck it. Who cares?
They've been doing it
It's
since
still
like
wild. It's all there.
1980s.
Yeah. You could have read this shit like a year ago.
Just refining it more
And no one wanted to
and
believe
more
it.
and
They're
more.
like, surely he's not going to do this. I don't know why everyone didn't believe it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, well, that's not Trump, it's the Heritage Foundation. Oh, the Heritage Foundation?
You mean the one that fucking essentially ran his entire administration last time? Weird.
The most influential organization on the GOP? Wow. Okay. Anyway, it is time now, again, to awkwardly take a moment to thank our sponsors for supporting.
I believe they didn't see me.
Supporting our show. Boy, I am hungry. I need
Survive.
nutrients.
I am fading fast.
It's taking a lot out of me.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Huel is here to take your nutrition to the next level. This episode is sponsored by Huel. That's Huel, the global complete nutrition brand trusted by over 400 million people. I stuck a Huel in the freezer this morning trying to cool it down. Waited too long. Now it's a block of ice. It's sitting in my car right outside.
It's going to be delicious
And
when you
it's
finally
going to
get
be drinkable when I get back.
That is right, Elliot.
Their Black Edition ready to drink is a total game changer. A complete meal in a bottle. It's high in protein, low in sugar, and packed with all the nutrients your body needs to feel and perform
I
at its
see.
best.
There's a little
And right
like
now, new customers can try it out for 15%
something happening
off,
down
plus a
there.
free gift using our exclusive offer at Huel.com/TechNewsDay15.
See if we
Huel
can
is a
figure it
perfectly
out
balanced
this
meal
time.
designed by experts to provide all the nutrients your body needs from a meal. Huel takes the guesswork out of healthy eating. It's for your most inconvenient meals. With no prep, no cooking, say goodbye to getting hangry and unsatisfying snacks. Just grab a Huel
Something
instead.
from the black
They taste so
market
good.
here.
Huel shakes actually taste like a milkshake, and they come in delicious chocolate or vanilla.
Yes,
The bonus is they're low in sugar. Lastly, Huel is incredibly affordable. With high protein meals less than $5, it is a budget-friendly option that we are genuinely excited about. My personal favorite is the Black Edition ready to drink. I'll sit at the desk while I'm editing.
Glug, glug,
glug, glug. Who needs a fully cooked meal? I got work to do. It's got a whopping 35 grams of protein plus 27 vitamins and minerals all in one handy bottle.
Access to quality quick and easy meals hasn't been this easy and tastes this good since
Open
ever.
and destroying
Don't believe me?
containers,
Take the leap and join the
rats,
community of
gold rushes.
hooligans. With this exclusive offer
Yeah, I
for
know
new
that.
customers of 15% off plus a free gift with the code TechNewsDay15 at
How do I get to
Huel.com.
buy that?
That's 15% off plus a free gift for new customers with the code TechNewsDay15 at Huel.com. Unlock a healthier, easier way to eat with Huel. Nutritionally complete meals in minutes so you can focus on what really matters.
This episode is also sponsored by Ridge, makers of the Ridge wallet,
so
the slim
much
and
here.
sleek wallet that is truly life-changing for both of us.
Look at these credit cards. I'll show you the front and the back. I'm gonna zoom it in right here.
We all used to have that big, gigantic dad wallet protruding from our back
Open the
pockets,
door?
right, fellas? That used to indicate a high credit score. Now it's all
Annoyed.
online.
Yeah.
It was annoying,
Get
it
the
was painful, it made your butt look
community
weird. Well,
outlook,
luckily we have
okay.
evolved, and so has our card and cash storage technology. In swoops the Ridge wallet with its unique, slim, modern design that holds up to 12 cards plus cash. The Ridge wallet is made with premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber, and has over 50 colors and styles to choose from. For a limited time, Ridge is having a crazy sale. You can get up to 40% off your order by going to ridge.com/newsday. That is ridge.com/newsday for up to 40% off.
These babies have over 100,000 five-star reviews, and all Ridge products have a lifetime warranty. This is literally the last wallet
see where
you'll
this
ever have to
goes.
buy. And you'll also have peace of mind
Probably
knowing
right
all
out
Ridge
into
wallets
this
have
battle
RFID
that's
blocking
happening.
technology, which helps to keep you safe from digital pickpockets. Their wallets also have an AirTag attachment, so you'll never lose track of your most important items. And Ridge isn't just about wallets. They create
Alright.
premium everyday carry essentials like key cases, suitcases, and rings, all built with the same sleek, durable design. No matter what you pick, Ridge has free shipping, 99-day risk-free trial, and lifetime warranty on all of their products. Right now, Ridge is having their once-a-year anniversary sale. Get up to 40% off at ridge.com/newsday. Just head to ridge.com/newsday to see their biggest sale of the year. After you purchase, they will ask you where you've
Was
heard about
bad.
them. Please support our show and tell them our show sent you. Ridge.com/newsday.
All right. Back into the news, and we should start with an update on the detained legal U.S. resident Mahmoud Khalil, who was taken into custody by ICE last weekend and immediately transported to a facility over 1,000 miles away from friends and family, including his pregnant wife.
Let's see.
This was all done under the guise of detaining and deporting quote-unquote Hamas sympathizers.
Not Hamas sympathizers, people materially providing support to a terrorist organization.
It's pro-Hamas. It's insane. Basically, the administration considers anyone who disagrees with Israel's genocide on Palestine to be siding with terrorists or anti-Semitic, despite the student demonstrators clearly explaining their positions for months, non-violently and very clearly. Khalil was involved in campus protests where he studied, so the Trump administration has accused him of supporting Hamas and instructed the State Department to revoke his student visa and his green card for the crime of constitutionally protected free speech. And the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was like, yeah, well, we took his student visa away, and we can do that. And it's like, he had a green card. He was a legal resident.
Yeah, I think
he wasn't just here studying on a visa and that's it.
Yeah, he got his green card fairly recently, I think, like within the last couple months. So I think like their plan was that he was still on a student visa. This would be a lot easier, and they're just like, just stick with it, I guess.
Also, his wife, who is 8 months pregnant, is an American citizen.
She is a U.S. citizen. Yeah, so
it's horrifying. There's nothing else to say about it. The same free speech that conservatives have been desperately fighting to defend over many, many, many years, especially online, and yelling at everyone about it. Apparently, different free speech for different folks. Well, here's the latest on Khalil. He will remain detained in Louisiana, unfortunately. And while some Democrats have come to his defense, many who should be directly involved because he is a constituent in their state have either remained silent or offered just the smallest, most lukewarm, half-assed offering of support.
Or they come out and spend like 4 paragraphs being like, I fucking hate this guy. I think he sucks. I think he does love Hamas. Blah, blah, blah,
I'm
blah,
waiting
blah,
for the
blah,
Department to prove it.
Anyway, like free speech or whatever.
Yeah, one guy in particular, Chuck Schumer, who might as well have actually said something in support. He posted whatever the hell this was, just a bunch of paragraphs basically saying what Elliot said. I don't like this guy. The Trump administration should show me some proof. Trump has already labeled Schumer, a Jewish man, as a Palestinian and not Jewish anymore over how he's treated Israel and Trump's budget. And we'll get into that.
That's just boys being boys.
I mean,
we'll get into that, but first here's the latest on Khalil from
slowly build that.
An activist who led pro-Palestinian protests at Columbia University will remain detained in Louisiana following a brief Wednesday court hearing.
At least I have more
Judge
idea
Jesse
about how it
Furman
works. I
said
can give
he
it a
would grant a
try.
request by Mahmoud Khalil's lawyers, allowing them to have
Just slowly
privileged phone
build
calls
it
with
on
Khalil
different
at least
streams.
twice, today and tomorrow. Khalil was arrested by federal immigration authorities Saturday night at his university-owned apartment. Lawyers said in court Wednesday he was first brought to a detention center in New Jersey before being flown to another site in Louisiana. Khalil's attorneys said they have been unable to have privileged communications with him since. Amy Greer, Khalil's attorney, said officials were acting on a State Department order to revoke Khalil's student visa and green card. Khalil's wife said in a statement that even before his arrest, this last week has been a nightmare. She described experiencing an intense and targeted doxing campaign focused on spreading false claims about my husband that were simply not based in reality. She said Khalil had been seeking legal help for that in the days before a federal agent approached them outside their apartment building and handcuffed Khalil. President Trump said Monday that Khalil's arrest was just the first of many to come amid the White House's crackdown on students and alleged agitators protesting Israel's war with the terror group Hamas.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of people online put this guy directly into the Trump administration's site.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on a previous episode, but yeah, there are groups that are literally feeding a list of names to people like Marco Rubio and people like John Fetterman.
But going back to Senator Schumer's response, in his 3-paragraph post to Twitter, Schumer basically says he doesn't agree with Mr. Khalil. But, well, my hands are tied because he's a legal resident, so I have to stick up for him, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
So, yeah, if Trump could please clearly articulate some solid and agreeable charges that Chuck Schumer can really get behind, I think it would solve a lot of problems. It would definitely make Chucky feel a lot better about this whole thing. It's just a weak statement made out of obligation.
If you could please do this in a more legally sound way, it would make things a lot easier for me because I really don't want to defend this guy.
But it didn't even matter that he tiptoed around it because Trump still claimed that Schumer is a Hamas supporter, and he did so in a way that didn't even directly reference his stance on Mahmoud Khalil getting disappeared by ICE. It's just another in a growing list of examples showing that Democrats should actually just do whatever they're being accused of, because they're going to be accused of it anyway.
Yeah.
You might as well come out and defend this guy with your full voice.
They're gonna think we're socialist, communist, Hamas supporters. They already think
And they're
that.
gonna
They've already
just
said that
keep
publicly. God damn it.
Here's Politico. President Donald Trump on Wednesday called Senate
taking
Minority
more
Leader Chuck Schumer
anyway.
a Palestinian as he
You
defended
just
the
keep
GOP's government
handing
spending
them
bill and
more.
his policies on corporate taxes and rising grocery prices. Schumer is a Palestinian as far
Give
as
an
I'm
inch, take a
concerned,
mile.
Trump said in response to a question about the U.S. corporate tax rate during a
Age-old.
Oval Office meeting with Irish
I
Prime
think I
Minister
like
Michael
grey
Martin.
better. Yeah.
He's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore.
Holy shit.
Schumer is Jewish and not of Palestinian heritage. The president routinely likened Schumer to a Palestinian during the campaign, at one point calling Schumer a proud member of Hamas.
Oh, there's only 3 of them.
Ooh.
These.
Okay? Like I said, just fucking, if you're like an elected Democrat
at the back.
And you believe in some left-leaning or liberal ideas like, I don't know, providing health care to people or protecting individuals' rights, maybe you should actually try and do that, because the Republican Party is just going to label you a monster anyway.
Yeah. Also, let's not forget, this whole thing is about anti-Semitism.
Which it's not at all.
Which he just fucking did.
No, they don't care about, oh my god.
Actually.
The biggest anti-Semitic has control of the government.
More anti-Semitic than anything Mahmoud Khalil has done.
And Bibi gave him a pass.
Anyway, tying this all back into tech is a recent report from 404 Media, which details over 200 websites that an immigration and customs enforcement contractor is actively doing surveillance on. And, because of the wide use of social media in general, honestly, just assume that every interaction is under surveillance, especially if you're taking no steps to obscure your online activity.
Yeah. Be more careful out there, honestly.
Maybe
Links to full articles are always down below, but here's how serious things are getting. A contractor for immigration and customs enforcement and many other U.S. government agencies has developed a tool that lets analysts more easily pull a target individual's publicly available data from a wide array of sites, social networks, apps, and services across the web at once, including Blue Sky, OnlyFans, and various meta platforms, according to a leaked list of the sites obtained by 404 Media. In all, the list names more than 200 sites that the contractor, called Shadow Dragon, pulls data from and makes available to its government clients, allowing them to map out a person's activity, movements, and relationships. The leaked list of targeted sites and services include ones from major tech companies such as Apple, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and TikTok. It also includes communication tools like Discord and WhatsApp, activity or hobby-focused sites like All Trails, Book Crossing, Chess.com, and cigar review site Cigar Dojo, payment services like Cash App, Buy Me a Coffee, and PayPal, sex worker sites, OnlyFans, and Just for Fans. Wait, what? Just for Fans? And social networks Blue Sky and Telegram. Weird! Some of them to map out a person's activity,
the surveillance that they're using.
The list of targeted sites and services include ones from major tech companies such as Apple, Amazon, Meta, Microsoft, and TikTok. It also includes communication tools like Discord and WhatsApp. Activity or hobby-focused sites like All Trails,
This is the shit these people used to scream about, though, before Trump came along. Be like, oh my god, they're tracking us on everything. They're big fans of Edward Snowden and WikiLeaks. No one,
Just for Fans, and
no
social
one's true
networks
to
Blue Sky
them,
and Telegram. Weird.
to who they are.
Yeah,
that site.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's so
even
weird.
Relatively obscure social networks are included in the list, such as Be Real. Shadow Dragon also pulls data from sites geared towards
How he
specific
convinced these people that were so anti this sort of thing.
Called Black Planet, or the fetish site FetLife, which 404 Media previously reported. The list also includes Roblox. An ICE statement of work that Epic obtained through the Freedom of Information Act described why ICE, specifically Homeland Security investigations, sought out SocialNet in one instance. ICE analysts conduct research on readily available public domain open source information that spans beyond U.S. domain websites and require ICE to effectively track and investigate known criminal elements and locations to mitigate the flow of illegal goods and personnel into the United States borders and territories. The document reads, yeah, we're under the guise of making the country safer from migrants. We have contracted a company who gives us essentially provides us a profile of any person that we want to type in with all of their online activity in full detail, including things that you would assume could be used as blackmail against them, like their OnlyFans habits and dating profiles.
Yeah,
privacy advocates have been warning about it since the dawn of the internet.
Folks. It's wild.
And we are obviously incredibly sorry to leave you with
now we're here, and now everything is like reliant on being connected to the internet, and we're trapped in it. And like people have even got like their money and everything connected to their phones and shit, you know, and they've just got total control over it all. They can just turn it all off when they want. And sort of proven that is true this, you know, these last few weeks as well. It's just anything.
We have an audience who will listen. It's important to try and push back, even with the relatively small audience we have compared to something like Fox News or Joe Rogan. So it brings us no joy to report on the fact that while Doge was wreaking havoc internally at our country's foreign aid office, USAID, staffers there were also apparently instructed to shred and burn classified files after they were done dismantling the agency.
Oh, good. This, even on its face, doesn't seem bad or corrupt in any way. I guess we should look into it a little bit further.
Here's CBS News with more. Some U.S. Agency for International Development employees have been directed to clear out classified safes and personnel documents from the Ronald Reagan building, where the agency is housed, and shred or burn the records, according to two sources, screenshots of an email sent to USAID staff and obtained by CBS News.
USAID staffers received an email from USAID Acting Executive Secretary Erica Carr directing them to clear out classified safes and personnel documents beginning at 9:30 a.m. Tuesday. The shredding instruction regarding sensitive documents was first reported by ProPublica.
Wow.
Shred as many documents first and reserve the burn bags for when the shredder becomes unavailable or needs a break, the email reads. If you need to use the burn bags, do not overfill, and ensure the burn bag can be closed with staples at the top. The only labeling required on the burn bags are the words secret and USAID BIO in dark Sharpie if possible. If you need additional burn bags or Sharpie markers, please let me or the SEC InfoSec team know. The documents being ordered destroyed could be evidence for multiple court filings against the Trump administration and the government aid agency, one source familiar with the instructions about the handling of USAID records told CBS News. You can't pin anything on us if we completely destroy the evidence. And yes, I know it feels weird to keep bringing up the fact that, what was it, 8 years ago now, Trump was like, and she deleted the emails. Yeah. Acid washed the hard drive. Hit it with a sledgehammer. Yes, it's fucking bizarre that this is happening so blatantly.
This bit.
And yeah, I'm desperately trying to leave on some sort of high note. So here's an uplifting story that is uplifting in spite of the fact that we acknowledge the system put these people in their positions of financial despair intentionally. So actor Michael Sheen has written off £1 million worth of debt for people using only £100,000 of his own money. Because that's how debt sales work. You owe money. That company considers it a hassle, and they sell that debt to someone for much, much less. And then it gets sold a couple more times. You still owe the same amount. In fact, you owe a lot more. Yeah. But the debt itself drastically reduces in price. Michael Sheen became aware of this and decided to just help people who were suffering. Here's the Hollywood Reporter.
The Welsh star, famed for roles in Good Omens, Twilight, and more recently A Very Royal Scandal, has started a debt acquisition company to help the groups in his native South Wales. Sheen's show aims to reveal how banks and finance companies are profiting from the country's most vulnerable. The shocking thing is that people have started having to use credit cards, overdrafts to pay for basics, to pay for necessities rather than luxuries or anything like that. So the debt that I was able to buy, like credit card debt, overdrafts, car finance, that kind of stuff, he said. You need some help to get through these times, and people are getting into spirals.
There on the wall.
Once you're underwater, it's very hard to get out again. That's why I wanted to do this, to draw attention to the fact that this is going on, and there is a way to change it. There are alternatives, and we need to push to try and make a difference for people. The actor was initially cautious about spending the money, he told BBC's The One Show on Wednesday, saying he does not have £100,000 to throw around, and therefore wanting the project to be effective. It was only when he met a woman in a Port Talbot cafe who told him about steelworkers in tears that Sheen decided to see the debt acquisition company through. Sheen's efforts, directed at the Port Talbot region, come 5 months after the closure of a blast furnace in Wales, marking the end of traditional steelmaking in the region and prompting in the widespread loss of jobs.
So again, this is great, but it's great for two reasons. He's helping people out, and it's shining a light on an industry that not only preys on people, but gets away with it by just shuffling debt that doesn't even really exist around. It's insane. But having said that, people like this shouldn't be put in this position in the first place. There should be safety nets in place, and
it doesn't get to the root of the problem, but it did definitely helps people out a whole lot.
Anyways, we do have more episodes for you to watch, but this is the end of this one, so that means that you have to stop what you're doing right now. I don't care if you're feeding your kids, taking the dog for a walk, or driving on the highway.
Hit the brakes. And slam those brakes.
Click that like button.
Let Jesus take the wheel.
Unless you're in front of a Tesla, because if you slam your brakes in front of a Tesla, that is domestic terrorism.
You can't do that.
No, it's illegal. You will go to federal prison or be deported.
Guantanamo.
So don't do that, but do like the video. Click the like button because it's the only way
to have to put every stare individually.
Leave a comment, talk about whatever you want below. Tell people how beautiful your monitor buddies are. We love seeing all the pictures.
Look at that.
Still haven't got ours.
Tricky.
Do all that. Check out our most recent episodes. It's a shorter week, so we'll be back with some weekly reviews very soon. Elliot is going.
Oh, I know. It's this 50? One with the control.
15.
No, people generally get married in their 30s.
Nice.
Yeah.
You're right. You're right. All right. Well, we'll be back with weekly weird news. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Internet today. Done. What about this wall? Okay, no to that wall. Could it be down low somewhere though? Maybe not. I guess not. There is this, however. Yeah. I guess it's gonna make the upstairs part of it too. So what's this area called? Warehouse and plantation. Why doesn't that work? It's something else. Oh, look, I can see another pipe. Like on the ceiling. Yeah. Something else outside. Like this. Where they're just concrete walls like those ones. Not these. Garage. I guess it's discovering what room is next around here. I don't know, garage seems logical. Laundry? Found some of these. No. Well, we know that over there is the gym. So if we put the walls on the gym. We think. Oh, okay. Gonna be different colors. Okay. Still, why? Why can't that one have that wall? Kitchen? It's not kitchen. The sewer. Oh my gosh, it's the sewer. And 3 for the sewer. Okay. Alright. Let's try and do all the bottom level first, I guess. I don't even know what this is. I don't know if it's part of the warehouse. No. So, passage area? No, surely not. I mean, there's desks. Dormitory? Might be. Control room. Yeah. Like the office or something. Okay. Let's see if there's something else to watch. Give that an update there. Oh, I heard about this. So there was a big protest for Mehdi. What's the fella's name? Mahmoud Khalil. We've heard about him already a couple of times. So let's watch Hassan. Interesting. Let's see if it let us get through there. Yep. Let's watch Hassan and see what he has to say about it, because I didn't get to see this. I think it was this morning or something that he would have talked about this. Maybe it was yesterday. All right. We have to check the levels because Hassan can be quite loud.
We're going to be talking about the Jewish protesters arrested after storming Trump Tower.
To nearly 100 people after a crowd of protesters stormed the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City.
And then we'll talk about how the Democrats caved.
The release of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian activist, a graduate student at NYU, or rather at Columbia University. He is at risk of being deported after he helped lead.
I have to change the title as well. Here? So it's called Jewish protesters arrested at Trump Tower. His son likes to yell his titles, so here we are. And YouTube is Hassan Avi. Oh, it's one word. Also on Twitter. Not Twitter. He is on Twitter, but also on Twitch, I meant. All right. I rewind. Put it into cinema mode. It is in cinema mode. Great.
We're going to be talking about the Jewish protesters arrested after storming Trump Tower.
To nearly 100 people after
Let's take
a crowd of protesters stormed the lobby of Trump Tower in New York City.
And then we'll talk about how the Democrats caved.
The release of Mahmoud Khalil, a Palestinian activist, a graduate student at NYU, or rather at Columbia University. He is at risk of being deported after he helped lead protests against the war in Gaza at the university last year. Homeland Security officials have accused Khalil of being a Hamas sympathizer.
We spoke to one of the organizers of Jewish Voice for Peace about why they wanted to come out here. And to them, they said they did not want the First Amendment entrenched on, which is what they believe Khalil was doing over the course of leading some of the protests we saw out of Columbia University. But also they wanted to show solidarity from the Jewish people as well. As those were the words that one of the organizers told me as we spoke to her, as some of her protesters were being loaded onto these buses. There were no violent incidents in regards to the arrest themselves. Once they were taken into police custody, there did not seem to be any resistance. We did not hear of any resistance.
This is awesome, and it's a good thing. Civil disobedience and getting arrested, especially for groups like Jewish Voice for Peace, is an incredibly important tactic. I think it's the appropriate thing to do. I think it's the right thing to do. And I think that they are incredibly brave for putting their bodies on the line like this, using their privilege. The reason why I say that is because a lot of this conversation in the Western world revolves around how this is a Muslim versus Jew situation. This kind of stuff gets reported on by mainstream news, and it educates people who are maybe living in the rest of the country, maybe not around.
But they try to make out in Australia
this is not actually a Jew versus Muslim situation at all, and that it's not like a scary terrorist that was arrested in this process. It reinforces that reality that this is about people's collective conscience and has nothing to do with like their ethnic background or centuries old Islam versus Judaism battles or whatever it shows solidarity. It reframes the conversation away from the ridiculous propaganda that you see from mainstream media. It plays a very important role that forces people to address the root cause of the issue and the lies that right-wingers tell about this issue, or the lies that Zionists tell about this issue. Doing it at Trump Tower is great because everybody hates Trump. All the liberals hate Trump.
For the right
cause them
wingers
to also look at the protests in a positive manner, like liberals who might be somewhat conflicted on this stuff, on the issue of Zionism, because at the end of the day, public discourse and public awareness is still fairly consequential, and you have to bring normies on board. It's not the entire way, okay? It's not the only way. It's not the only method, and I will not discount other methods. Having said that, this is a fairly significant way to reframe the narrative back to the truth, to take the reins of this narrative and reshape it so that people understand what is actually going on, what the dynamic truly looks like. To complex problems, especially structural especially systematic issues that exist and persist, there's always going to be multiple different avenues of attack, pressure, all the way from militancy down to peaceful civil disobedience, all the way down to like broad awareness spreading campaigns. And that's why this is a good thing. Okay, this is a great thing. It's a wonderful thing, and I think that it's the right thing to do. It is the appropriate thing to do. It's the moral thing to do.
Joining us now, CNN senior national security analyst Juliette Kayyem. So Juliette, over 120 people entering Trump Tower, a law enforcement official telling CNN at the height of this. Tell us a little bit about that security setup there now that it's not Trump's official residence.
Yeah, so I'm surprised by this. I would have assumed that just given the public nature of Trump's commercial activities, it would be very difficult.
And that it was targeted in January, but like
it was clearly a secretively planned protest,
and peaceful protest.
What's going to happen? May or may not know some people that were there, and may or may not gotten arrested. Wasn't that big of a secret. But she's right. It was planned ahead of time, deliberately.
And this is the interesting thing about Trump, without getting into whether he should or shouldn't do it. And we saw this with Elon Musk with the Teslas, because they've broken down the distinction between their public roles and their private commercialization, monetization rules. We're seeing these protests touch them in their commercial space. We saw this with Elon Musk and attacks on Tesla, as well as now this protest. Donald Trump cannot close down Trump Tower. It's a commercial space. It's a residential space. And so they are sort of dealing with, I think, in some ways, the consequences of that merger of monetization and policy and the First Amendment.
So these arrests, charging people with obstructing government administration.
By the way, these people are very openly, unapologetically, and deliberately showcasing that they are Jewish. Very little distinctions are being made, very little commentaries being made about that fact. And I have to assume that
they don't want to highlight that.
Deliberate. They barely mention it in the beginning, where they were like, "Oh yeah, Jewish Voice for Peace is the group," and then that's it. Them being Jewish is a part of this process.
And then everything just says protesters got arrested.
An important part of the protest. That's why it's called Jewish Voice for Peace. You know what I mean? That's why they put it on their signage. And it's not because of Jewish exceptions.
Kind of relevant to the conversation.
In order to break through the pre-established narratives surrounding Islamophobia, surrounding the way to normalize or obfuscate the truth about Israel by claiming that it's directly tied and associated with Judaism around the world, and certainly in America, is by doing like this.
The interesting thing about this is this was organized by a Jewish group. So the narrative of, well, sort of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian equals pro-Hamas Arabs that is often used, and it was used in Mahmoud's case.
Why don't you say the quiet part out loud, bro? What the? She's like, yeah, normally we would be like, if they're Arabs, they love Al-Qaeda, but they're Jews, so we can't say that. It's insane. Normally we'd be like, hey, they love Hamas. Look at these dirty Arabs. They love Hamas. But when they're Jews, we can't say that. It makes it harder to say that.
Oh my God.
Oh my Lord. Ay, ay, ay. What a an insane moment of honesty right there.
Is harder to make against Jewish organizations. I have no doubt that that's why they
harder
did it.
to make against
great
Jewish
diversity within the Jewish American population about what's going on, divisions amongst them, and I think that's a very important part of this narrative of who it was organized by and why.
Wow.
We are here.
If they mention that these people are Jewish at all on Fox News, they will do my favorite thing that I love seeing, which is, I call it Gentile confidence, where a bunch of the most Christian looking motherfuckers will sit there and be like, yeah, these Jews are bad. They're not real Jews, actually. We should put them in concentration camps, actually. And it's like the most golden retriever looking ass blonde lady you've ever seen in your life saying that. And you're like, how does this not ring any alarm bells? You're not Jewish. It's like a shocking display of overt anti-Semitism. If they mention that the group's called Jewish Voice for Peace at all.
Protesting against the defamation and deprivation of Mahmoud by Donald Trump. I don't really understand what Donald Trump's intentions are, and I won't speak for them, but I will say that the impact is causing a lot of harm to people who are asking for peace.
So there's that. Katie Pavlich joins us with her reaction, but first let's get an update from the New York City Police, from the chief of the department, John Schell. Chief, good to have you here today. Do you have any idea who this group is, or who pays for these T-shirts, who organized it all? Any idea?
George Soros.
We're well versed in this group. I don't want to give them any advertisement. We've dealt with them before. We know what their MO is, if you will. And again, I just can't stress enough.
MMO.
Bro, why won't you say it? Just say the name of the group. What is
say
it? You're
the
very
name.
familiar with them, huh? I doubt that you wouldn't be openly talking about it if it was like, I don't know, Arab Muslims for peace or some shit. You'd be like, yeah, I'll say it. It's Hamas. It's Hamas. That's right. These guys love Hamas.
That in 2 hours we got this cleared up. 98 people. We had to carry people up escalators and walk them out. It's not the easiest thing to do in the world, but our training and
oh my God. I feel so bad for you, sir. Jesus Christ.
Professionalism to our cops. We do this very well in New York City.
Indeed you do. Thank you so much, Chief Schell. Always good to see you. Thank you for what you do to keep the people of New York City safe. And as you say, 5,000
Live
protests
in
of this
a
kind
dystopia.
in the past year or so, since October 7th, is extraordinary. Thank you so much, Chief. Good to see you.
Have a great day, Martha.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Crazy shit that we're watching movies.
The organization. You housed a criminal? Yeah, I know. Damn, 2 minutes ago. That's crazy.
Refuse to believe they're all students. They're coming from, wherever they're coming from with pre-printed T-shirts. There's some money behind this, Lisa. And there's no doubt about that because we've lived through this before. So this is what open borders potentially can bring you. I can't believe everybody.
Come on, say it. Say who funds the protest. Say the Jews funded the protest.
What about all the MAGA hats? Who funds those? And the Trump T-shirts and stuff. Who funds those at a big Trump rally? Who's funding that? How ridiculous!
Come on, say it. Oh shit! Look at Noah. He's right there. They should have never let this criminal back out in the streets. Yet another terrorist that I've had on the broadcast. When will this Hassan guy stop constantly having terrorists on his street?
Everybody's here on a student visa and or a green card in the crowd, or that they're all American citizens.
Oh my God.
I think we have to find that out. And where it is applicable, as Ari has said, get them out. I refuse to believe they're all students. They're coming from.
That's so funny. Look at that. I can't believe Noah tricked you by hiding his radical beliefs. Yeah, you can tell that the Republicans are having a hard time covering this because the shirts very clearly say Jewish Voice for Peace, not in our name, and the people that are being arrested are Jewish. It's difficult. It plays a role in this, in the narrative that you want to craft as this is a entirely Arab Muslim thing. And this isn't to say that Islamophobia is very real, okay? Trust me, I know personally, okay? But because Islamophobia is so real, a lot of the media narratives around this stuff revolve around this being a purely Muslim issue or whatever. And they set it up that way so they can easily undermine it. Now, there's two different ways to go about it. One, to combat the Islamophobia directly, but also simultaneously explain to people that it's not like a Muslim Jew issue at all. It's an issue for those with a conscience versus those who are inhumane barbarians.
Are calm now, but it was a chaotic couple of hours inside Trump Tower. The NYPD says among the charges in these arrests is trespassing and obstructing governmental administration. The NYPD says around 150 people entered Trump Tower in plain clothes. But once inside, they revealed protest shirts and signs and staged a sit-in.
Within 10 minutes, we started responding here from the police department. Within 40 minutes, 50 minutes, we started making arrests.
Police carried out demonstrators like Josh Dubnow.
We have a right to express our opinions, but I refuse to allow my fear to stop me from expressing my First Amendment rights.
The demonstration organized by the group Jewish Voice for Peace, which is an anti-Zionist Jewish group.
We're seeing the Trump regime weaponize anti-Semitism to attack freedom of speech.
The Anti-Defamation League says it does not represent the mainstream Jewish community. Attorney Gerard Falitti is an activist with the group End Jew Hatred.
The issue is not students saying that they support Palestine, but it's rather students taking action.
It represents those people, those Jewish people.
Oh God!
They're saying not in their name.
They're not.
Not all Jewish people believe the same thing.
Shut the f up. I mean, it's
or agree with these things happening in their name.
Got a CIA mug behind him. Yeah, no
the point.
God damn, dude. Lying is
They're
OP.
still real
Lying
Jews,
is so
bro.
OP. Lying is so OP. It's just there's no interest in the truth. The Democrats, liberal media, everyone in positions of power have unironically gone along with this lie over and over and over and over and over and over again. That it has basically become the established truth. It doesn't matter.
Parts of campus. When you're talking about globalizing the Intifada is known as specifically violence targeting Jews in Israel. So you are selectively discriminating against an identifiable group of people, which is, in this case, anti-Semitic.
This comes on the same day the Council on American Islam.
After talking to Hamas, U.S. hostage negotiator Adam Baylor reportedly removed from position. There it is. There it is,
Man,
dude.
there's heaps
Benjamin
in
Netanyahu
here.
sends his regards, you know?
Islamic Relations New York filed a lawsuit against Columbia University and the Congressional Committee on Education and Workforce. Plaintiffs are Khalil and 7 other students who say the school handing over student disciplinary records to that committee a few months ago violated the Family Education Rights Privacy Act.
Allowing Congress and institutions like Columbia and others to target you or someone else because of a viewpoint you hold is an epic danger to American values.
Troy Ager, second in command at the Department of Homeland Security on Mahmoud Khalil.
It seems American values are changing, going to be changed
and you're here on a visa and you go through it
dramatically.
at any point. Is any criticism of the government a deportable offense? Question again. Let me put it this way, Michael.
Okay.
Imagine if we came in and filled out the form and said, I want a student visa. They asked him, what are you going to do here? And he says, I'm going to go and protest. We would never have let him into this country. Martin says, is protesting a deportable offense? You're focused on protest. I'm focused on the visa process. He went through a legal process. They are doing the thing that I was trying to describe to Asmongold when he just simply did not understand. As it stands, there is no rule in the rule book that says you can deport someone for exercising their First Amendment rights, non-citizen, citizen alike. That's not a thing. You can, however, waive the visa of a person if you believe that they are interested in protest, or you can deny them entry into the country. But once you're in the country, it's over. You get the same protections as everybody else. What these guys are trying to do is play fast and loose with the pre-existing law that is already stupid, by the way, that like, oh, we can waive your visa.
Yeah, they're changing it.
Up until the point of entry into this
Change
country.
definitions of
if you say that you're
everything.
going to protest or whatever. That's ridiculous, okay?
And change the boundaries of the laws.
But also, that would require a tremendous amount of surveillance, to figure out like, whether or
They
not
like that. They want that.
someone is demonstrating Palestinian sympathies and like that. That's insane. The very fact that we are discussing this as though it is just simply a back and forth is terrifying, and the very fact that people don't understand how gross of a violation of people's human rights this is, and how this desecrates the Constitution of the United States and the free speech protections it affords everyone unconditionally is shocking, genuinely shocking. We are officially directly in the throes of fascism. We're not one step removed from fascism. We're not bouldering towards fascism. This is fascism. If they can retroactively apply visa waiver denials to people that have already become legal permanent residents, they can denaturalize people too. This sets an insane precedent. And if they can retroactively decide and denaturalize people, they can deport people.
If they can give you something, they can take it away, Hassan.
And they can do it for, I guess, virtually any reason they choose to do so.
I guess Hassan thought that he might have had a level of safety being a citizen, but like, I swear to God, Australia has revoked citizenships before. So once they give you something, they can take it away if they've got to give it to you. They can't take it away from someone that's born in the country, but, well, they're even taking it away from, like, kids that are born in the country if their parents are illegal citizens. So, citizenship. Yes, Australian citizenship can be revoked under certain circumstances, says the AI. And here it is here, and that's July 2024. Section 36D of the Citizenship Act allows the minister to apply to a court for an order to cease a person's Australian citizenship. Obviously, they can't cease the citizenship of someone that's born here, but if you come here and get, like, citizenship, then they can take it away. You may already be an Australian citizen and eligible for evidence of if you're born in Australia and you've been ordinarily right 10 years from your birth. I wonder if they can take it from someone that's been here like since I guess they could. Like someone that's been here like since 01 or something. Yes, you can if you fail the character test. That's part of the criteria, but you can lose it. Like we've read here. Apply to a court for an order to cease a person's Australian citizenship. And they did this with some terrorists at some stage, I believe. So it can be revoked by the minister, it says. And these are all AI answers. Exception, this power of revocation does not apply to Australians who are to individuals who are Australians by birth, or if revoking the citizenship would be against the public interest. I don't know how that would apply, but okay. Loss of citizenship is revoked. Person will lose their Australian citizenship. Renounce, you can choose to renounce it, and it can be lost through denaturalization or forfeiture due to fraud in the naturalization process. This one here is the one that I'm talking about. They can revoke it if certain conditions are met, such as convictions for serious crimes or actions that are deemed to be against the public interest. And that's revoked. It can be revoked by the minister, and they have to go, he has to go to court to do it. So they give you something, they can take it away if they want, you know. And I do think that Hassan thought that he would be safe. I don't know if he's safe. I don't know if he's safe. I hope he's safe. Like, you know, he's a very good commentator, and I don't think he means ill by the US. He wants the best for the US, you know. So, and I do think that he thought that that citizenship would make him safe. But in this environment, in this political environment, anything can be changed, you know. Anything is possible and can be turned upside down. And they can just use anything they want as an excuse in the end. They can just twist it. You can make anything be anything you want. All right, let's finish the bottom level of this bunker. This is going very well, though. I'm pretty happy. Oh, there's all these things on the bottom level, on the bottom shelf I didn't see.
So, as long as you call someone a terrorist, you're good to go. And considering that the Trump administration has talked about vandalizing Teslas as an act of terror, trust me, it's coming. You are a moron if you don't recognize this. I am not saying, I'm not like I'm not exaggerating. I'm not freaking out for no reason, okay? This is truly unique.
So I think in the past
of depravity for the American government.
I reckon he's realized it now, obviously, like after seeing what's happened with Mahmoud and just seeing the direction. I think he knows that that's where it's going. And he said, you know, in an earlier or another video I watched, that, you know, we're all of us that are in his chat and all of it, you know, we're all sent for the re-education camps under this regime, you know. So I think he realizes now that, you know, it's easily revoked.
I'm not fear-mongering. Thank you. I was forgetting the word. I am not fear-mongering when I say this. I am looking at the logical conclusion by making assessments off of what the administration is saying and also their proclivity to follow through on some of these promises that they've made on the campaign trail, whether it be Project 2025 and its implementation or whether it be directly denaturalizing people. This is straightforward Nazi shit. The Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar unwilling to answer a simple question.
Is any criticism of the Israeli government a deportable offense?
Now,
like I said,
we have that here.
When he was entered into the country on a student visa, at any point we can go through and evaluate what his status is, and the Secretary of State
is any criticism of the United States government.
I mean, I wonder if America has that at all for citizens. Like, like, obviously that's going to happen, but I wonder if that's something that exists in America. Like, can you lose your citizenship for crime? Even though we're talking about people losing their citizenship just for free speech. Can you lose citizenship in America for crime? I guess. Yes, it can be revoked through a process called denaturalization. If it's found to have committed certain crimes, engaged in fraudulent activities related to naturalization. Yeah. So crimes leading treason, espionage, terrorism. Well, Musk seems to be a good candidate for this. Right, so you can for crime, but we're talking about people that have just, they're like, if you're a citizen of the country, that grants you the rights of the constitution of that country, right? And you shouldn't be able to have your citizenship taken from you just because you're protesting. That's your right as a citizen, yeah? They can't have, like, now we're going to have like a split line of the type of citizen that's allowed to protest and the type of citizen that's not. You know, is that what they're trying to form here?
A deportable offense.
Yeah, this is not hyperbole. I am telling you exactly what is going on, and I'm telling you where this is going to go. Understand the danger in front of us right now. And our institutions that are supposed to be, at least to a certain degree, interested in upholding, peaceful education for its students and and maintain some semblance of normalcy are completely caving. They are caving to the right-wing reactionary neo-Nazi administration and its Nazi-ass policies. We're there. Donald Trump also earlier today talked about how he wants the Supreme Court to allow him to end birthright citizenship.
Where these
Again,
lights gonna
directly
go?
a violation of the Constitution. This is constitutionally protected. He wants to reverse the 14th Amendment.
Let's try the door.
Like I said, if you go through the process and you're a student and you're here on a visa and you go through at any point.
Is any criticism of the government a deportable offense?
It is shocking how much these guys will make it seem as though Israel has the American government by the f***ing balls, dude. Truly.
Oh, I know.
Like, this is some real neo-Nazi, anti-Semitic conspiracy shit. The way these dudes operate. Like, you're the deputy secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, and you're like, yeah, if you criticize Israel, like, you'll get deported. That's insane. If you criticize a foreign nation, you'll get f***ing deported. Holy shit.
Like I said, as a student, he comes to the United States on a student visa, applies. Let me put it this way, Michelle. Imagine if he came in and filled out the form and said, I want a student visa. They asked him, what are you going to do here? And he said,
he was
I'm
a
going
student.
to go and protest and
so
join
is protest a deportable event?
We would never have let him into the country.
Is protesting a deportable offense?
Like I said, you're focused on protesting. I'm focused on the visa process. He went through
that's what he's been arrested for, protesting.
He lied on his application. He's a lawful permanent resident married to an American citizen.
Well, I think if he would have declared he's a terrorist, we would have never let him in.
And
what? Declared he was a terrorist?
Dog, what are you saying? He didn't do terrorism. You're just racistly saying he's a terrorist. Oh my god.
Oh my god.
The third wave of Red Scare is upon us, and this time it's basically anything and everything. It's being built around the pre-existing network of combating anti-Semitism, which is not actually to combat anti-Semitism at all, but is to silence dissent against
laundry,
Israel.
maybe?
And using that as an entry point into overriding some of the most important, if not the most important, constitutional protections that the government offers to every single person. This is terrifying. It's happening in front of our eyes. It's unfolding in front of our eyes. And there's still a bunch of dumb who don't recognize it and, dare I say, entertain it and celebrate it.
What did he engage in that constitutes terrorist activity?
I mean, Michelle, have you watched it on TV? It's pretty clear.
No, it isn't. Well, explain it to those of us who have not, or perhaps others have not. What exactly did he do?
Well, I think it's clear, or we shouldn't be talking about it. I mean, the reality is that if you watch and see what he's done on the university.
Do you not know? Are you telling us that you're not aware? You don't know what he did? That
no,
it's actually good. She. Like, we're actually getting some pushback from a journalist. That's awesome. Deputy Secretary Troy Edgar discusses protests. To arrest a protest.
I think you could explain it to us. I think others would like to know exactly what the offenses are, what the propaganda was that you allege, what the activity was that you allege. Well, perhaps we can talk again and you can give us more details about this. And that's Department of Homeland Security.
It's alarming that they're this incompetent, by the way. They're bouldering through this, and institutions like Columbia are also caving to this pressure. They're caving to donor pressure, and they're caving to outside government pressure because their funds, their grants are being removed. Right now, they're doing it for Israel, okay? They're doing...
Yeah, the same's happening in Australia. Our universities are being affected by outside foreign interference, foreign pressure, to change, like, so the universities have changed the definition of anti-Semitism. Capture it's I don't know whose version of anti-Semitism they're using, but it's sort of not a very legit one, so they've expanded that definition. And the Australian government created a whole lot of terrorist laws around all this sort of thing as well. So there's a lot of pressure coming from that, and now Australian universities are facing foreign pressure from the US government. Trump has sent out the whole memo, what did you do? No, not that one. He sent out the whole DEI, if your research, and like some research is partially funded by the US, and so it's like, if your research has the DEI in it, any climate change, if it focuses on climate change or any of these things, and and US, and now the universities are kicking up a stink about external influence, and it's like, where were you before? But anyway, yeah. Not much left on this one.
For Israel. That's just what this is.
Gym.
What makes you think tomorrow they're not going to do this for, I don't know, gay students, trans students, black students, anything they want? What makes you think they're not going to do this because you have too much DEI, for example? That's also an intentionally vague definition. You're a moron if you think that that's not going to happen.
No. He's so good. He's so good. All right. I don't really want to watch that. Nobody should have voted for the terrible CR. I don't know what that is. Americans don't understand about Europe. There it is there. Oh, they're talking about the social media ban for this kids. It's a sort of kids news show for the ABC. So I'll just sort of go. I don't know what. It's only short, so I don't really want to change the title for every short video we watch, do we? But this one's behind the news. I'll see if I can. Behind the news ABC. and it's... No, I do believe it's written in full behind the news ABC. So yeah, this one's more produced for sort of, you know, high school students. But but the social media ban affects kids, right? So let's have a look at what they're teaching kids, I guess, on the Australian sort of news outlet.
Okay, so the social media ban is coming into place later this year. We're going to see some apps banned for people under 16 like TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, but YouTube is being left off the list. What do you two think of that?
YouTube takes it like a different approach to social media. Like it's not as like back and forth conversational.
YouTube's more geared towards the educational side of it. A lot of schools or stuff.
The comment section though is pretty... Look, I don't agree with the ban at all. I don't think we should be banning kids. It's parents' jobs. You should be teaching your kid and you know, curating your kids' content on the internet.
I've used videos off YouTube to help teach their kids or explain stuff.
I don't
teach them how to use it safely.
Problematic, so long as YouTube is following its own community guidelines.
Because it's gonna stunt kids in the end. This whole thing where we, you know, they're gonna have, they're not gonna be as protected because they're not gonna know how to use it as well when they become adults. And everybody else is using it and they've never used it.
YouTube is currently the most popular platform for teenagers, with a survey published by the eSafety Commissioner earlier this year showing that 73% of Australians aged between 13 and 15 were users. And while YouTube was originally intended to be a part of the social media ban, the Australian government changed its mind in November 2024, saying it's an important educational platform that children, parents, carers and educational institutions rely on.
Someone who comes from overseas and don't know how to read and write, and learn from reading and writing, and learn anything, whatever they need from YouTube.
And specifically like science, mathematics, that kind of stuff. They have these great YouTube channels which I used in high school, which helped me in my learning.
We're all in agreement that it does count as an education platform.
Yeah. That's definitely how they like advertise it.
But now, after meetings between the Australian government and Meta, Snapchat and TikTok, these social media companies aren't too happy and have submitted formal responses to the government's decision to take...
Are they even relevant? I guess TikTok. They want to stop kids from getting informed on TikTok. And they do get informed on TikTok. There might be a lot of crap on them, but a lot of crap everywhere. So they still get informed on TikTok.
Facebook and Instagram says it makes a mockery of the government's stated intention to protect young people. It argues the platform uses all the same features the government says are unsafe for children, including algorithmic content recommendations, never-ending autoplay, and ongoing notifications and alerts. While Snapchat has accused the government of preferential treatment, and TikTok called it a sweetheart deal, and has compared it to the idea of banning soft drinks for kids while exempting Coca-Cola. Do you think that YouTube counts as social media?
No.
But they're going to have to ban everything. They're just going to end up banning them from the internet.
You only go on YouTube to text people and to catch up with friends. Nah.
I think it's an app that more so fosters communities around subjects of interest which the videos are created about, and that's where you see discourse in like the comment sections.
Well, there's comment sections on every video. You can talk between people. It's still a social platform where you have a voice. There's obviously people that take for granted the platform that they have and can spread misinformation, which can be damaging to younger audiences. Definitely it's a form of social media, definitely, yeah.
No, not really. Like, not a lot of people go on there to use it as like to post stories and their everyday life, you know what I mean?
Over the last few years, some researchers found that YouTube's algorithm directs many young people towards content that promotes eating disorders, misogyny and violence, and other harmful messaging. But when it was first announced that YouTube wasn't part of Australia's social media ban, the company said it's making big investments to ensure the platform is safe for kids and teens. And earlier this year, it shared updated features, such as a wider set of topics that could be problematic when watched repeatedly by some teens, like unrealistic financial advice or content that shows negative behaviours. The platform also says it's made bedtime and take a break reminders more prominent and expanded its supervision features for families.
I'd say YouTube is definitely more moderated and more safer for children, but there's still content on there that's probably not the best.
There's still predators in comment sections of videos. It's an addictive platform as well.
I know that there's a lot of other content on YouTube, but that should be monitored by the parents on what your child's up to in the media.
I think that YouTube still to this day has some moderation problems in terms of flagging some content that shouldn't really be flagged for things like copyright, and then not flagging other content which might be harmful for minors. So I think that in terms of those sorts of things, YouTube should probably consider making some changes to make the platform safer for minors.
Well, it's good that they had there was kids that were sort of against their own interests there. Oh, Astrum. I want to Astrum. I want something that we can finish up. Oh my god. Sam's Jubilee made conservatives lose their mind. What do we got here? I'm gonna finish up soon. Just want something that we can watch while I finish the end here. The imprisoned Israelis refusing military service in Gaza for 12 minutes and 59. Sounds pretty good. Let's do that.
I love Monday.com.
What's Monday?
Refresh.
אני חושב שקשה לאמת את הנקודה שבה בעצם הבנתי שיש משהו אחר, שהבנתי שאני מחזיק בעמדות אחרות מהרבה מהישראלים.
I would watch it, but I have to read. And that's fine, but I can't read and do the game at the same time. Maybe we can watch this Victorian Senate debate. Wouldn't mind. Channel 6. What have we got here? The EU is robbing us. Others retaliate. Do I want Australia to retaliate that way? I don't know, not really. I don't think it'll work out good for us to retaliate with tariffs. So I was gonna at 6 News. This. Oh, right. It's an hour something. Let's just watch this.
I love Monday.
Part. Sick news. It is. It's pretty sick. 6 News. There we go. They write it as 6 News Australia. 6 News. I'll write the at, I reckon. 6 News AU. Like 6 News AU. Maybe I should even include the at. Like that. And so there is a full debate and it talks about housing and stuff. It's really good. I haven't watched the full debate though. That's a big thing. Alright, so let's just watch this bit.
Israel and Hamas has been a topic that's been brought up in Parliament for the past 3 years, especially in the last, 1.5 since October 7. It's something that a lot of voters and a lot of people in Victoria do care about. Mr. Pickering, I'll direct this one to you first. I know your leader, Pauline Hanson, she's been a strong supporter of Israel. She's talked about, there being terrorist people on our street supporting Palestine, quote unquote. Again, there are lots of people who care about this issue. How would you be addressing it as a Victorian senator?
Look, so firstly, rather than just addressing the issue, I'd outline my position, and I don't believe changing the Australian government's position on this overall, whoever that may be, the Coalition or Labor, is going to make one iota of a difference to the people in Palestine or Israel. Absolutely not. So, while we can continue to lean on our government and demand
this guy, he doesn't understand not in our name. Oh my God.
The point is, we have enough problems here at home domestically that we can influence, that we can have an outcome on. And rather than engage in a perpetual division, I think we need to unify on certain things and ensure that this country doesn't suffer the same problems that have, befallen those countries.
On the isolationist route as well. It's very popular these days.
Just something on what Mr. Pickering raised there, though. I mean, is it not true that Australia does have, and because you're obviously been advocating for the government to change its position in many ways regarding Gaza, but is it not true that Australia does have, pretty minimal influence over the Middle East?
That's not correct. Absolutely not. So Australia is the sole supplier and manufacturer, for example, in the F-35 program, of the heat treat of its bomb bay doors, of the F-35 fighter fleet's bomb bay doors, as well as its some of its landing gear. And the F-35 fighter fleet has to, those parts are very high stress parts that have to be replaced every couple of flight hours. So if Australia, just said, hey, we're not supplying those anymore, we're cancelling those contracts. We are the sole supplier of the F-35, of those F-35 parts. We could ground the entire F-35 fleet, not just in Israel, but all over the world.
And that's how we could make a difference.
We actually do play quite a major part in that conflict. We like to say that we don't, but that's just because it makes Labor look a little bit better, but they are too.
A secondary plan to that, that they'd be able to have those produced and manufactured in another Five Eyes community within 5 minutes.
So fucking let them do it. Like, let us not participate in a genocide.
Let them do it.
If they want to do that, that's fine, and then we can attack them for it. But at the moment, it's our government that is assisting in the genocide
and that's
of
further
Palestinians.
decimation of our own manufacturing sector. We're just allowing it to go overseas.
As long as
it's inconvenient.
It's fine while we're participating in a genocide. That's great.
Well, money
That's
comes from somewhere.
Genocide, yeah.
Yeah, no, we've got to make money. We've got to make money at all costs, whether that's through the killing of children in another country. We're okay with that. We're not.
Mr. Ditloff, I know your party, and you actually mentioned this earlier, talks about getting out of foreign wars and the like. Do you have any thoughts on, what was just raised by Mr. Vandenlam there on Australian involvement rather than non-involvement?
So our position is simple, Leo, and that is that we don't trust what our government does with our taxpayer money here in Australia, where we can see it broadly and where we can observe what they're doing. And they've made a mess of things in our own backyard. We certainly don't trust governments, such as our government, or foreign governments, to spend Australian taxpayer funds wisely overseas in war zones like Gaza or the Ukraine. To the extent that government funding participates in foreign overseas conflicts. We'd love to see that withdrawn. If that is to be private sector free trade or industry sort of trade, more power to their arm. And but it's really very simple. While Australians are struggling, I'm coming to you here from the electorate of Corio, which is the...
I think to defend a country that's been invaded is one thing. To be involved in the invasion of another, the colonization of another, genocide of another, that's another thing. That's a different thing, you know. These two conflicts can't really be equated in the same way as to who, like, which side we're on, yeah?
Seat of Richard Marles, the foreign minister in the Albanese government. And while Richard Marles is strolling around the front line of Ukraine in a flak jacket and camo gear, talking about how he's obtained $1.1 billion in funding for the Ukraine in material and funds.
Do they think it will stop there? Maybe they don't care.
There are people in Corio, this electorate, who are living...
I mean, look, you know, I like to just, you know, banter on ideas. Maybe they're right. Maybe an isolationist world, sovereign nations, isolationist type world would benefit us all. I don't know. I think that working together, I mean, we're one world, working together for the betterment of our planet was going okay. I mean, I believe we could have done better even. So, but if everyone's going to go the fascist route, well, I hope we stay sort of socialist and manage to, you know, the semblance of socialists that we have and do isolate from, like, all these aggressive, hostile nations. I don't know. If that's what we're going for, I guess that could be good.
In second or third world conditions, who are some of the lowest socioeconomic demographics, highest incarceration rates, and who are struggling to put food on the table, fill up their car, or pay their mortgage, or more likely rent, because it's unlikely they've been able to afford a home. So you can't save a drowning person if you're not a strong swimmer or safe yourself. And Australia needs to take a much narrower view of its national interest and start putting Australian taxpayers first.
Ms. Patton, I know you want to interject there. Obviously, you mentioned before, you know, you and even before legalised cannabis, you know, with reason.
That's why we never should have got involved in Iraq.
How does that weigh into your
shit
views on this?
It just doesn't. It just doesn't. I have family in the Middle East at the moment. I am, you know, you cannot look away from the horrors of what is occurring there. You cannot look away, and you cannot say, well, you know, until everyone's happy in our country, there's no help for other people. Again, this just seems to...
That's exactly what you can say, Fiona. You're running for the Senate
Jordan,
of Australia.
It's incredibly uncharitable, and it just creates more wars, which makes us even more unsafe. You know,
his politics is not rooted in any sort of empathy. It's very selfish, and he's going to then lean on the selfishness of the majority of people that just want to get on with their lives and not worry about anyone else and not worry about anything else because it's too hard. Lean on that selfishness to rob people of their empathy in a way.
the idea that just letting people fight it out is not going to change, is not going to impact on Australia, is incredibly short-sighted.
Yeah.
I think people need to fight it out. We're asking people to largely sort out their own problems, to be reasonable and be responsible.
Fight it out.
I think we have we are part of this globe and we have a role to play in it. It's why we do have.
What happens when we need defense?
I mean, if both of you are saying,
for all the things that we've put into everybody else's protection, only to get shafted at the end when we need it potentially, you know? That's basically what's going on. We helped for all these different conflicts and, you know, we tried to do the right thing by our allies. I don't agree with them all, that's for sure. But we're going to get shafted at the end, you know? That's what it looks like to me.
close our foreign affairs offices, I think you should say that, and I think that's an interesting point. But what's happening over there, and we have Australians who have family over there. We have Australians who have escaped from those wars, who have escaped from the terrors of the Middle East. And so I do think that we have a role to play there, and I do think that we should keep fighting for peace. And whether that is a two-state solution, which personally I believe it is, that, as I say, Legalised Cannabis Party does not have a policy on this, and we will base it on, as I say, human rights, evidence, compassion, tolerance, and tolerance.
Yeah,
so
compassion.
The idea that we would remove aid from those countries. We've just seen the United States do this with removing all aid, US aid. Now, the soft diplomacy of that and the lack of diplomacy of that is horrific. And to think that Australia would follow down that path
the
is
roof on
frightening.
first. Oh, what about this? This with the door here. Where does it go? We're in the gym. It's got to go there, but we've got to put the lid on it. So I have no idea what would be above. I'm just gonna have to wing it. Okay, so no. Okay, so the garage is not above. The dormitory doesn't look like the dormitory has. Dormitory's over there, yeah. Maybe it's an outside. Maybe not. Maybe it's not an outside. Maybe it's the laundry and toilets. Maybe not. Maybe. Yo. Don't tell me. Oh. Yeah, it is. Okay. I don't think so. Oh, okay. Winner. You don't want to go too far there. Alright. And this is passages. No, this one. Okay, steppies. Let's see, if I switch over to a different I will not do. I don't think there's anything else that I want to watch in the immediate, so, and I just want to finish up this bottom level. AI style. YouTubers who backed as genocide. I wouldn't mind watching that one day. Just 3 days ago. Wonder, oh my, looks very involved. Would I really want to go down that drama route? I don't know. When Russia and America assured Ukraine's security at the Budapest Memorandum in 1994, and we talked about that. I believe that's when they gave away their like nukes. Ukraine gave up nuclear weapons in 1994. And they agreed to transfer those weapons to Russia for dismantlement, and they became a party to the Treaty on the Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons in exchange for economic compensation and assurances from Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom to respect their independence and sovereign territory, and we know how that went. Hey, the Greens have this plan. Let's watch that.
I love
it. Really wants me to watch this ad. Now I think it's just ABC News. How do they write their thing? ABC News Australia. Could. We can go from could. Like that. And then the YouTube is all one word, lowercase. There's got to be a way. I swear there's a way to do this automatically. I'd probably have to write my own script for it or something. Okay, let's... I don't really want to let it run the ads. There we go. Bring it back up here.
New independent modelling done for the federal Greens has significantly dropped the expected revenue from legalising recreational cannabis. The party is renewing its drug policy going into the next election. Business reporter Amelia Turzon has the exclusive on this data. And
I reckon it'd still earn more than
that. So what do
that.
the numbers show, and under what
even
sort
though they're
of
going, oh, it's half as
legalisation?
much.
Modelling done by the Independent Parliamentary Budget Office for the federal Greens shows that under their plan to legalise adult use or recreational use of cannabis, they could have around $11 billion in revenue come into the government coffers. And that would be under their plan, which involves company tax of companies that sell and make cannabis. It would involve GST, and it would also involve a special 15% tax on the sale of cannabis in Australia. The Greens policy is really very focused on smaller to medium-sized producers. They actually announced this policy around 2 years ago, and they said that they would make big pharma and big alcohol and big tobacco companies ineligible to sell cannabis in Australia. This is obviously off the back of the long-running legality of medical cannabis. David Shoebridge from the Federal Greens says that they want to go much further and bring marijuana use off the black market.
The future that we see is adults being able to make adult decisions about their use of cannabis. When you look at some of the mature markets around the world, it's not a bunch of people lighting up in the street. It's about going to a really chilled out place, a cannabis cafe, a dispensary, and having a cannabis-infused latte after a really intense week at work.
He's got it.
So the expected revenue from the Greens plan, Amelia, is a lot lower
exactly
than the last
what we want to do.
these numbers for the party.
All right, we're in the sewer.
Why's that?
Yeah, that's correct. So these numbers show around $11 billion in revenue over a decade. The last round of modelling showed much more than that, $28 billion in revenue. And that's interesting because those PBO costings that came out several years ago from the Greens policy were actually challenged by an economist who specialises in cannabis. She said that at the time that she thought the PBO costings were wildly inflated, that they were either predicated on a massive surge in usage of marijuana, or that they had simply got the numbers wrong in terms of the current thoughts around how many people
was it 28 billion or something? That's pretty wild.
Medicinally or through the black market. That economist has said that she believes the PBO costings that have now been released
I don't know, but I think 700 million is pretty low because I know of a place where they make a lot more than that in Australia, and I don't know, maybe there's other drugs involved. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure the market would be more than that if you were to legalize it, right? But maybe they're basing it on the medical figures at the moment, but there is still a huge black market in Australia and a huge amount of people that use marijuana and they do not get it medically.
Are much closer to the mark. She believes that they're modelling the sale of cannabis at around $14.50 a gram, which does place it within the price that it's sold on the black market currently in Australia, which is seen as really important for this policy to actually get people not buying from drug dealers as the Greens want, but buying off legal avenues instead and giving that money back to the government through revenue.
So how likely is it then that this policy will actually get passed?
So the Greens policy was actually debated in Parliament last year, and it was very much shot down by both the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. We have had the coalition which legalised medicinal cannabis use more than a decade ago. We've had them consistently say they don't support adult use legal cannabis. We've had Michaelia Cash, who is their spokesperson, say that she doesn't believe this is a good idea for people's health, that it will be bad for children if they could get access to this, which the Greens says they don't want. We've also had the Labor Party not really want to put out a full statement on legal adult use cannabis. They simply have been saying that they believe this is a matter for the states and the territories. The Greens dispute this and say that because their plan includes tax collection, it is actually a Commonwealth issue. The Greens are saying that they would like to make this a big issue in the next Parliament. They are talking about the possibility of pushing this if a minority government comes to fruition, which of course the party is doing a lot.
Just, you know, Labor and Liberal just continue to want to criminalise people. And they're like, oh, we don't want children to get it. No one wants kids to get it. It's not going to make more kids get hold of it. In fact, by putting it into a legal market, you end up having it in places like, you know, kids can't buy tobacco from a tobacconist. Kids get hold of cigarettes and things, yes. Well, they also get hold of cannabis currently on the black market. So I do believe that if you put it behind, like at least behind a shop counter, you've got a bit of a better chance. Isn't that why we've gone and put so many restrictions on tobacco and alcohol and things? And so sure, kids still get hold of them, but it would be I think that it would be worse in a situation where those things were available on the black market. In fact, that's probably where kids do get it, is the black market these days. Be easier to buy tobacco on the black market for kids, you know. It's already being sold illegally behind some stores just for adults. And so I don't see someone carding a kid, like if a kid wanted to access that black market tobacco that's currently out there. So anyway, I think if you put it behind a clinic, you're going to get a more regulated, better product, like not just better as in a better high, but like it's a safer product, right? And then we can bring the profits into the community for healthcare and whatever many other things, education and all sorts of things. I do believe that 700 million is way undercutting. So they said, the original estimate was way over by the sound of 28 billion. That sounds a bit excessive potentially, maybe 28 years. But I do think that 700 million is wildly undercutting the estimate.
Lots of issues like housing and Medicare. Here again is David Shoebridge from the Greens speaking about that push.
Greens are saying loudly and clearly, we are going to push for legalising cannabis in any minority government and in the next Parliament.
Good. All right. I think I can switch over to like here or something. I need to work on out my camera on the other side. Do one specially for diorama builders so that the plans can be seen properly. Right. So that looks like, oh no, there's more there. Okay. And I'm going to suggest that potentially this lower level is dark. Right. Oh, and now what has it added more because of the top level? I'm gonna finish everything underneath. That's the plan. Oh, okay. Only one then, because I can't get other pieces in there. Oh, look, something here. Something there. This? No. Is it? There's two of them, in fact. Like this? Yeah. This looks like the very lower level of the sewer. So it's got like, well, I don't want to place pieces up here, but I see what's happening. I think it's finished on the bottom. Oh, man, found another one. And another. There we go. I'm gonna guess that these pipes are on another level. Just I hope, because I have no way of getting under. Whoa. Okay. So we did the control room, we did the gym. The warehouse and plantation still got a lot to go up above. The sewer still has stuff to go above. Passage areas, we were working on this. Maybe this is floor? Passage area floor? There we go. Oh, lights. Okay. There's the laundry and the toilets. Oh, I wonder what that is there. And then sewer, and then some of the warehouse part. I wonder what goes in the middle. Nothing in the middle? It's a faux? It's faux in the middle? It's not real? Or is that going to be like the outside? The middle is not going to exist. This is very cute though. Okay. That's where we're going to leave it today. I'll continue building this one on another stream, maybe the next stream. And I don't know what I'll play. I'll play this, but I'll play something else as well. And I'll watch something else, and we might try different categories as well, like for the stream. So today I tried Fortnite category and Diorama builder category. Maybe there's something more appropriate. Maybe I could try the just chatting category, and that might people might, because of the news part, that this is kind of the side feast that comes with that. Whatever, I don't know, we shall see. This is so cute though. I shall continue building it on the next stream. Alright. Love it. The little gym. That is so cute. Alright. Thank you for joining me. And I think that was successful. I enjoyed that because I got to sit here and do what I do and also be entertained by what I'm also entertained by and share that with you, which is, and that's kind of, I think, in the original plan that I had for my stream and what I wanted to do, yeah? So I guess I'll just keep trying this, and if that keeps working for me, then I'll do that. And I also really like the random times. Like, that's just gonna work for me. Just whenever I'm on. It's just the way it's gonna work for me. Alright, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time. I've changed up everything. I don't know what's what at the moment. Okay. Yep. I'll see you next time. Bye.